It is a live stream on Thursday. That's right. It is the day we were able to figure out when we could actually do this live stream. So let's scroll back to the beginning. Hello, Soul Price. Good to see you, buddy. Welcome to the show. I'm going to change also to make sure that this is on all messages so that everybody can participate and I can hopefully see everything and engage with everyone. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day so far. It is nice to finally have a day off. I mean, I've been working a lot at this new job, nonstop, going. But you know, it's good to kind of be able to get back into the normal flow of things, working at a job, getting paid decently, and then slowly digging myself out of debt. My goal is to try to sort of dig ourselves out of debt enough where I'll be able to at least order some basic toques like we've been talking about for years, so we can try to get some toques before it gets too cold. I mean, it is autumn now. It's a little chilly here in Vancouver, but it's not that cold yet. But as a bald person, I mean, it is a little chilly. What's happening, Chris Barton? Good to see you, buddy. For those of you who are just joining the show and will be joining in and are new here, everyone is welcome to participate. Everyone is welcome to say hello. Everyone's welcome to ask questions. What's happening, Joe Burns? Good to see you, buddy. Rock and roll. Welcome to the show. What's happening, Mud Swat? Good to see you, buddy. All right. What's up, Alien Garden Genetics? Good to see you. Pound it. All right. What's up, Tommy D? What's good in the hood, buddy? How you doing? All right. It's been a good week here, though, so far. We did the trip to Prince Edward Island. That was nice. Got that done. Big A's now married. That was sweet. And it was nice because we came back to that plant really kind of having bounced back. And we were able to, within a number of days of getting back, able to, begin our training out and begin training things out all sort of down. For those of you who haven't seen the most recent update, which would probably be most of you, that one doesn't have a lot of views right now. We went in, we defoliated, we started strapping everything down. The tent is really starting to fill up now, which is really fun. I'm enjoying it. Thank you very much, Swat. Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with how the plant's looking so far as well. What's up, Roman Reckless? Good to see you. What's up, Dan Jamieson? What's up, Miss K's Garden? What's up, Craig Page? All right, everybody, welcome to the show. No, it's going really well. I'm watching as things are developing. There's a couple more branches that can be strapped down today. So I'll probably do that at some point today. If not today, I'll do it tomorrow evening. I'm almost thinking that, we'll give it maybe another week and then we're going to flip. So there's going to be a transition to flower. There is going to be a stretch going on. So the remaining quadrants that'll need to be filled will be able to be filled out on the plant there over time, and it'll be going well. That's the video there that I was talking about, the most recent one where we went through and kind of strapped everything down for everybody. What's up, little Chewy Stewie? Good to see you, buddy. All right, welcome to the show. But it's been going really well. I'm pretty excited, you know what I mean? The 2x4 is already almost totally full. We've got a little bit of room around where the pot is, where we're going to be strapping some branches back and kind of around the edging of the pot. We've got maybe half a foot, 6 to 8 or 9 inches remaining on getting that final main segmentation strapped down to that whole sort of main line area there. It'll probably be in the next week. We might even be able to strap down sort of the remaining kind of branches on this one. And it'll be good to go. Mudswat says, I presume this is better than high stress training. Not necessarily. And like I said in the most recent video, we will be incorporating some high-stress training eventually into this, where we're going to actually snap those tops that we've strapped down, those branches. We're going to snap those tops, which is going to redirect the energy as it's regenerating back into those secondary branches along those strap down lines, okay, for them to then begin to sort of take initiative and become sort of their primary tops. What this is going to lead to is just the whole tent itself is going to be jam-packed. And yes, little Chewy Stewie, we can show you. Am I going to turn it back on itself? No, I will not. It is already almost entirely full in here. The whole point of this is just to fill the tent. So as you can see, we've got this back area. That one's ready to strap down, so we can strap that down and back. We're waiting for that one to grow out. We're going to strap that one in a V to leave us some access to the actual pot itself. But if you look at the end here, we've only got about 6 or so inches remaining for us to do that. there. This branch is pretty much there. I mean, I might do that one tomorrow and let that one kind of do its thing, strap that one down. This one's almost there too. We have some nice aggressive pre-flowers that are setting in on this, which is always nice to see. This one is definitely ready now to be strapped down today for sure, so we're going to strap that down. One of the quintessential things or components that's going to be important too on this is we're going to come through and we're going to clear out all the bottoms right there. So there are some bottom branches, and at first I was conceptualizing, I was like, well, maybe we'll kind of train them up and over the railings. I think I'm just going to cut them all, the sort of the lower lying or lower hanging fruit off, just to sort of primary focus on the development in here. Basically, this, within the next week, this should be filled out, and these will come through. Within their stretch, this will be filled out. These will be strapped back down. So we're probably going to flip this in a week. The rate at which he's growing, the way that we're filling out the tent is going really, really well. I'm very, very happy with it. So realistically, we're more than likely going to be flipping in roughly a week there. And she'll be coming, coming into herself quite well. And I'm curious. I'm very curious to see what the final weight on this run is, because with all these secondaries that have now become primaries that are kind of doing their own thing and growing up and onwards and upwards, I think, they're pretty thick now, right? So we're going to have a lot of main stalks in there. We're going to have a lot of primary buds and some really nice colas and nice big buds being produced. So once we come through, we're going to kind of cut all that underbrush down, and we're going to trim it all there. And, we're going to go from there. 1 second here. Little Chewy Stewie, how long has she been in veg? A little over, well, let's think. I mean, I'm not counting the veg time when it was in the solo cup before we planted it. So the video we released a couple of days ago, it was like 3-ish weeks in veg since the transplant. Let's go with 3 weeks. So it's 3 weeks since we planted that main sort of long, stretchy one into the pot there. I distracted myself. So I wouldn't say that this is necessarily like, I'm using a bunch of different things. So there's being mainline techniques, there's low stress techniques, and we're going to also be utilizing high stress techniques on pulling off this whole filling of the 2x4. Okay, that was at the question of this is more beneficial than a high stress training. We're actually going to be using some high stress training techniques in this as well. You said LST, but you meant HST. Yeah, so it is kind of like some high stress. I haven't broken anything on this yet, which in my mind, I've got to snap sort of the cell wall of a branch in order for me to call it like a full out high stress training. But we will be snapping the ends of those branches to redirect into that centerpiece, like I said. So it's going to be some low stress, some high stress, all being done on a basic, horizontal mounted main line on the main segmentation. It is a little atypical compared to what normally a mainline technique would be. Normally for a mainline, people are topping, and then they're taking those two main tops and training those out along a pole. We decided to, augment it, plant it into a bucket, have it going horizontally, and training it out that way onto the side rails. Little Chewy Stewie, is that from seed? Yes, it is from seed, for show. And Roman Reckless, you didn't top anything? I have not topped a single thing on this plant. Absolutely zero topping has been done. All this was I grew a plant out in a solo cup from seed. I kept feeding it. I inoculated with microzyme. I stayed on top of it and forced it to really stretch and grow super tall in a singular main sort of stalk. That's what then made it perfect for us to then plant horizontally, have those secondary branches kind of be trained up and out, and it's going to be good to go. Yeah, right, Little Chewy Stewie? I mean, the thing for this one was, the bucket idea, doing it that way. This is an augmented idea of something I originally wanted to do. Originally, I was going to do this, at first I was going to do it with multiple plants on multiple tables in the room at the old house there. And then after that run, I was actually planning on taking my time and growing an entire plant out to fill the entire room. Obviously, I don't have the space for that right now in our current living situation. So I came up with this new way of utilizing similar techniques and similar ideas on a smaller scale to try to maximize and fill out a 2x4, which is, proven a lot of fun. Oh, I feel you, Roman. 100%. This is an atypical way of doing it. Zero topping is utilized, and we are just literally using the plant's own natural structure to create what our desired results are. Also, my thought behind it, and it's proving to be true, was that when we tip the plant on its side the way we have, and we are growing it augmented along that railing, it'll feel the support of the railing, and it begins to transition those secondaries into primaries, and it's actually changing how that plant is in of itself distributing water, nutrition, and growth hormones within itself. It's imagine it like the plant has a self-awareness. It's aware that it's been tipped on its side, and it can sense that. So it's changed how it's approaching its own makeup. It's utilizing its own mind in a sense to then do what the desired effect of what we're going for is, and that's what's allowing us to then have all of these secondaries become primaries and sort of strap them down and out. Am I worried about airflow? No, because again, this is a singular layer, so it's not like a giant plant that's going to be in on itself. I will say though that you're definitely hitting a nail on the head with that. Airflow is going to be important. I'm actually going to be mounting small fans on the undercarriage, blowing up through the canopy. But we're also going to just stay relentlessly on top of defoliation and controlling really what's growing out on this plant. So again, is it the most efficient way or less? It's labor intensive. This is definitely a labor intensive way of doing it. It requires daily gardening. It requires daily monitoring, and it requires foresight and having a desired end result in your head of what you're going for, so that when you're cutting and you're training, you're able to actually do what you need to do with the plant. But I'm not worried about airflow. As long as I stay on top of doing what I need to do. That's also why we're going to be flipping within a week or so. We're just basically getting it to where it's almost filled the tent. It'll fill the tent during its initial transitional 1 or 2 weeks. And then we're just going to stay on top of, again, directing our branches, defoliating our branches, and controlling where energy is going to be going. We're also going to be trimming off all those secondary branches that haven't quite grown up to a point where they can be incorporated in. I also feel like we probably don't need them. It's a waste of energy. So we want the plant to focus all of its energy on the branches we've chosen to strap down and to make up our main V there in the plant itself. Andre 4000. What do I consider a great yield for a 2x4? Well, in a 4x4 area, in a 4x4 tent, someone should be able to, bare minimum, at least be yielding a pound. So a traditional 2x4, half a pound to a pound for sure. Pound's pushing it, I think. I think half a pound to 3/4 of a pound I would consider a very good return in a 2x4. Honestly, I'm going to be going for that pound. I'm going to be shooting for a pound on this one, and to see if we're able to pull that off. I mean, that's the end goal. Will we do it? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, that's also going to be dependent on how does the flower itself form. Are we going to see that Girl Scout cookies density, the flower formation? Is that going to stay consistent within this phenotype of this plant? Or is it going to be more leaning towards the blue cheese? Blue cheese in and of itself usually has pretty good flower formation in my experience with it in the past. And with the blueberry being an indica-laden sort of side to that blue cheese, I mean, blueberries often are quite good producers as well. So I think there's all the right genetics in this hybridization that if they all are present to a point and work well together, it's going to give us that flower formation and that density we're really looking for. I am going to get some CO2 breather systems in there. I'm not going to go with the tank-based system because I do have very tiny little dogs, and CO2 is in and of itself heavier than air, so that'll sink down. And so, you don't want to be rocking CO2 tanks in an area where you've got small children or pets. That's just not good. You know what I'm saying? They are not your friends, DES. What do you use to strap it on? I'm going to be strapping it on, or I'm strapping it down with Zap straps. So with the Zap straps, obviously you got to stay on top of them and you got to change them out. So, every week or two, you're going to check where your Zap straps are. Once that starts really cutting into the tissue and you can see a slight swelling on either side, you're going to cut that. You're going to reattach a new Zap strap in that spot. Again, it's just maintenance, right? Like, we're staying on top of it. It's no different than growing a stylized rose bush or anything else in your garden out. We're just doing it inside with a cannabis plant, right? So sorry, everybody, I'm just reading here. I concur, Roman. And sorry, just reading. Oh yeah, Joe Burns. I'm releasing updates every Tuesday. So the updates on this experiment come out on Tuesdays, everybody. So every Tuesday you're going to get an update on the plant and what's going on. Oh, so yeah, if you're asking about what I'm strapping to, I used 8/16, no, 9/16. No, what did I do? It's a little over half inch. It's 11/16, 13/16, something like that. A piece of hemlock doweling. So we've basically mounted that doweling through the bucket as the main line there, and then we've also built a framework of the same hemlock doweling to sort of slightly higher than that main thing, so we can actually have a maximized space of, rather than going flat across the 2x4, we're kind of going like this on it in order to maximize our space there. No, I know, Roman. I know. Again, I just had lunch. All my blood's in my stomach right now. This shit is it's bigger than half inch. Half inch is thinner than this. So it's actually bigger than half inch doweling. I'm just trying to remember what it actually was, what I bought. I was quite stoned when I went to the store to buy the shit. So, all right, here, I'm just reading. Miss Case Garden says, you and the pups are your CO2 generator. Yeah, not enough. I'm going to be using yeast breathing systems to introduce a greater amount of CO2 into this area, because with the dense packed nature of it all, it's spicing it up and having a CO2 yeast-based breather in there is not going to be a bad thing for show. What's up, that guy channel 2? Good to see you, buddy. All right. And at Little Chewy Stewie, yeah, you're not wrong in that the main primary variable in terms of yield is definitely going to be your light, for sure. More light equals more wee titties. But it's also, every genetic is different in terms of its structural realities and how it forms flower, the density of flower density. So there's a lot of secondary variables that go into yield. It's not just how much light you have. The primary variable definitely is the light, for sure. And I've cramped a lot of light into this. I've got a double Squatch in the 2x4 right now, everybody. I put a double Squatch rack. I haven't fired up the second fixture much. Typically what I've been doing over the last week is I'll fire up the second fixture for the first hour of the day and then the last hour of the day. Today, honestly, is the first day where I've had both fixtures running. It is getting a little chillier here, which is nice. So it's bringing down the ambient relative temperature of my apartment, just helping to mitigate the temperatures in my tent by just the fact that it's chillier here. All I got to do is open some windows and it gets pretty chilly in my apartment pretty quickly. So that's been nice, sort of more of an open air concept. At this time of the year, in the city, I'm not too bad. If you're in the valley or other places, you got to be mindful in terms of open air cooling, is that you're asking for PM, which is rampant in the Fraser Valley and different areas, to kind of come in. And you also just got to, in the middle of the summer season, if you're doing that, I mean, you could suck in a bunch of pollen that came off a male plant that someone didn't euthanize, and accidentally knock up your crop, right? Like, so there's a lot of different things to be mindful of, for sure. I'm doing well, Daniel Andrassi. How you doing, buddy? Thank you, Roman. It is 11/16. That's what I was trying to remember. Thanks, buddy. That's exactly what it is. Sorry, everybody. I'm just reading here. What's up, Arizona treasure hunters? Good to see you. All right. Doing well here, my friend. Anyone speak Russian? Pretty sure that's Russian. Sorry, I don't even know how to begin to say your name. I don't speak Russian, so I don't know how to. I don't know what you're saying. I understand winky face. That's about it. Yeah, Joe Burns. PM is a motherfucker, especially when you live in a wet climate. So where I live is a temperate rainforest, right? It is a temperate rainforest, and PM is just really bad here. Like, I mean, it's just so prevalent, especially when you leave the city. Like, we're on the coast, we're on a port here in Vancouver, so with all the ocean air, it's not quite as bad. It's still around, but the second you kind of go out into the valley or up into the mountains, especially this year, powdery mildew has been crazy. What's up, Surah Al-Shama? Good to see you. Hello to you, my friend. He said you don't look like a Squatch. Well, that's because when you live in the big city, you gotta trim that beard and blend in, right? Hidden in plain sight, baby. And if that's actually what they said, that's funny. And if not, that's a funny joke from you, Lil Chews too. I enjoyed that. Inno says skunk number one forever. I don't disagree that skunk number one is an epic, amazing strain that is also a genetic foundational component to a lot of modern genetics. I would say that almost nobody actually has the original skunk anymore. I've got 3 or 4 different versions of it. I haven't grown any of them. We'll see how close they are in my humble 2 cents. And there's only 1 or 2 seed banks where you can actually get an original skunk from, and those are the people that did it. Again, we're not going to talk about that on the show because that's what got us the strike of telling you all where to go when we made that video, and it fucked me in the ass when it came to the YouTube overlords. Arizona treasure hunters, heard you all had an earthquake. We've had 17 earthquakes in the last 2 weeks, all along the coast here. Most of them really, really tiny. You won't even feel them. There was a 4.2 or 4.3 magnitude earthquake just off of Vancouver Island. I kind of felt it, you know. The joke going around Vancouver is like, oh, the great earthquake of 2024, and then someone like knocks over a lawn chair. It wasn't a big deal. The thing that one should be concerned of in terms of where I live in this part of the world is that we are on a major fault. There will be a big earthquake that hits. There will be a tsunami that will basically obliterate anyone living on Vancouver Island. Vancouver Island will function as a shield to Vancouver, so I'll be okay. All of UBC is going to fall into the ocean. That's going to happen. And so there's a lot more seismic activity right now than there has been in many, many, many years. It is picked up, but again, they're still quite small. It could still be 100 years off, or it could happen next week. You never really know. Surah El Shama, what's your channel about? I'm known around the world as the Potsquatch. I've been teaching people for the better part of 10 years how to grow their own cannabis. We're also a lighting brand. We're a genetics line, CBD line, and then also just building a positive community where all are welcome to learn and embrace in the love of cannabis. So Surah Al Shama, we are a cannabis lifestyle, medical cannabis, professional cannabis, whatever you want to call it, channel. We are pro-cannabis, cannabis community, and production and farming. Bro, could you imagine if that's what they said in Russian, though? That would be funny, bro. Right, Monkey Man Productions? No, I feel you. PM can be real, but you can also avoid it fairly easily, too. Hulk Hogan's tights. When Chuck Norris went to college, he told his father, "You're the man of the house now." One could argue that that's probably true. One could also argue Chuck Norris probably gained that from his daddy and probably actually was still a young Chuck Norris and had to blossom into his manhood. You never know. Mudswat actually went and checked into it. And he says he actually said something about a microphone. Per Danny into the microphone. Speak into the microphone, maybe? I don't know. Maybe it's not loud enough there for him in Russia. I don't know. What's up, Daddy O'Grove? Good to see you, buddy. The big one is coming to Arizona, Treasure Hunters. It is coming here, and we're going to have a big old earthquake eventually. Surah Al Shama says, interesting, it's illegal here. And Surah Al Shama, it's been legal here now for like 6-7 years. We've had legal medical cultivation in Canada for like close to 30 years. So like I've been a legal cannabis producer for my own medicine now since I was 19. 18, 19? How old was I when I got my first? 18 or 19 years old. I'm 36 going on 37 now. But we've had a medical access program that entitles Canadians both to possess medical cannabis as well as produce their own medical cannabis in Canada now for like 30 years or so, give or take. Roman Reckless says, I thought we had that discussion about directing cannabis sales. Huh? Roman, I need more information. Sorry. Roman, I don't get your second last comment. So Surah El Shama, though. See you later, Miss Case Garden. Surah El Shama, I mean, I think, eventually most of the world will go legal. It is the happening trend. I believe that we're not far off even on federal legalization in the United States. Germany is now legal. There's many countries that are following suit. Funnily enough, honestly, I think the first country to go legal in the world, actually, on a federal level was North Korea. which is just cruel and mean by that little dipshit who runs their totalitarian dictatorship. Well, we're going to starve our people, but we'll let them grow weed. We'll give them the munchies and then let them starve. What a cruel, sadistic bastard. But North Korea has had cannabis fully legal for a very long time. They may not have been first, but I feel like they actually may have been, funnily enough, the first country to legalize weed, which is weird, right? You don't really think about, a liberal forward-moving idea like cannabis legalization taking place in a totalitarian dictatorship run by a little tiny dinked narcissist. But what are you going to do? Precious life. Good night, overweight people. Overweight people? My God, my friend. I'm actually exactly the right weight, but sure. Precious life. Oh. It's so sweet. Well, I hope you're enjoying your 0% body fat content there. Precious life. More Russians. Is that right? Is that Russian? Mudswalk, can you translate that one for me too? NPS Johnny. For those of you, if you are Russian and you're speaking Russian, you're welcome here. My issue is not with the Russian people; it's with your stupid government. But I will say, though, I don't speak Russian, everybody. So if you want to say something, try to stick to English because that's how I'm going to be able to talk to you. Arizona Treasure Hunter says, I'm overweight, laugh out loud when it comes to the bag. Oh, do you mean your bag of weed or your ball sack, bud? I'm just teasing. All right. Little Chewy Stewie says, or FM, I've been at this 30 plus years. Catch up, UK government. I'm getting money up under you. I mean, I think the UK is going to hop on board too. I mean, the UK is interesting in that they've had legal medical production for decades. A majority of the world's legal medical cannabis for many decades has been produced by the UK, but then it's highly illegal for its own people. That's never made sense to me. I've often questioned the UK's government about that. Like, that's just stupid. But, maybe there's a reason why I'm an actor, writer, comedian, and not a politician, I guess. I don't know. I bow at the altar of logic, science, and shit that makes sense. But here, that's not Russian. It's nothing. Oh, okay. Then it's nothing. Okay. Maybe it's like one of those weird, like, twiggly-boo, fonts or something on Word or something. Well, I mean, I can't blame them, little Chewy Stewie. I mean, when you hear about the existence of Frankenweenie, they get curious. They want to check it out. And that's the funny thing, little Chewy Stewie. Like, yeah, I would say we're OGs for sure. I mean, you've been doing it longer than I have. I'm sitting at now, let's do math, 23, 24 years. You're sitting at roughly 30. And then there's motherfuckers who've been doing it even longer than us. Like, it's crazy. It's been going on a long time. Surah Al-Shama, you speak too fast. I'm trying to catch up. Oh, sorry, Surah Al-Shama. I could try to slow down a little bit. I will say it does get easier to follow me the more you listen to me. I do speak fast, even for English speakers. I do speak very quickly. This is a very true statement. I do speak quickly. Dude, that almost looks like Elvish or something to me, NPS Johnny. Is that Elvish? Somebody check out what that is. I don't even know. 187 Harrison Biden. Are you Canadian? I am most certainly a Canadian. I am a Canuck. I was born in Ontario. I live in British Columbia. I've lived in British Columbia longer than I lived anywhere else in Canada. These 857 says, nice bald head, dude. Thank you. I am bald, so I shave my head. As an actor, I eventually had to accept that I'm going bald. And I wasn't going to be one of those guys trying to grow it out and make it work. You know what I'm saying? 187 Harrison Biden says, you can tell how you said sorry. It is true. As Canadians, we do apologize for things. We also apologize to inanimate objects. We are typically a conscientious, sweet, caring people. We're empathetic and compassionate. We're also tough assholes. Don't take us wrong. Just because we apologize for shit and we're conscientious to the feelings of others doesn't mean we don't, bring the ruckus when we need to. But Canada's funny. A Canadian standoff, everybody who's not from Canada. What we do for a fact is like a Canadian standoff will be like let's say two Canadians come to a door and one Canadian goes, no, after you, no, after you, no, after you, and that'll go on sometimes back and forth like 8 or 10 times. Okay, Cuber XX. What do I do for content? I'm a cannabis grower. I've been growing cannabis on YouTube for almost 10 years. I teach people to grow their own cannabis. I make educational videos. I make funny videos about cannabis, and I have fun with it. For many years, a lot of the videos that we did that were a lot of fun were we would do videos about the plants, but then I'd make the plants talk. We would have fun with it. Typically, I try to make education fun. I do a lot of different voiceovers and voices and have fun with it. I'm an actor, writer, comedian, filmmaker by trade, as well as pot grower. And then by day, I work as the mobile maintenance technician for a large company. So I drive around and fix shit all day. But yeah, content for this channel is typically marijuana related, marijuana activism, education. Education is the primary thing, I think, here. I started this channel to teach people about growing weed and shit. Daddy O'Crows. Potsquatch is the weed preacher of priests. Oh, that never gets old for me, buddy. That never gets old. I mean, I feel weird being called a preacher, being the son of two priests. I never thought that word would be associated with me, but I mean, it's not a, yeah, it's cool. I'll take it. Cuber XX says, yo, I know what weed is. Cool, me too, man. Go weed titties. You ever heard the term weed titty though, Cuber? Probably not, because if you're new here, I invented that term. That's a Potsquatch turn of phrase. Technically, a more scientifically astute way of saying it would be a weed uterus, but that's not very sexy, so I called it weed titties instead. Sexier, you know. Welcome, Cuber. Everyone's welcome here, Cuber. That's funny. Chuck Norris ate LSD once just to give his hallucinations a bad trip. Cuber XX says, you seem nice. Thank you. I am very much me. Who you see on this channel is who you get. I think that's been the number one comment over the last better part of 10 years when people actually meet me or they chat with me in my own personal life outside of the show or the community. Is they're like, holy shit, you're actually who you are on the internet. I was like, yeah. Like, well, if I'm going to make a channel, fuck being fake and making shit up. I'm just going to be myself, be blunt, be honest. It makes it a hell of a lot easier to make a brand and make yourself known is if you just stick to what you know and be you, right? It helps. Hey, thank you very much, Cuber XX. I appreciate that. For those of you just tuning in, this is the new fun experiment that we're doing here. I'm calling it squatch lining. So basically what it is we've mounted in a bucket horizontally a singular plant that we grew out super tall in a solo cup on the main stalk. We've now then started tying it down to all the sides. We're going to utilize high stress on these tops here, and we're actually going to snap those, okay? I'm going to let them get a smidge taller before they do that, which is going to redirect the plant energies back into the central part of this plant. But another week or so, this should have grown out, and then, we'll fill this up in that first 2 weeks of transition stretch. We're going to be training these back and around and down. And the concept behind this is, one, I just wanted to have fun and try something new. Two, I hate scrogging, so I'm showing, scrogging is for beginners. This is a little bit more work, but I think it's going to be vastly more effective overall because we're not depending on a scrog net. We're actually training this whole plant to make a perfectly situated, balanced, strong form within its natural structure. And we're just going to fill this bitch out. We're going to grow as much weed titties in a 2x4 as we can, you know what I'm saying? What's up? Watch that. Hallo Deutschland! Ich war lieben in Bayern vor 2 Jahren und 6 Monaten. Meine erste Frau war ein deutscher Schreiber, Lisa Helme Wittmann. Oder die Schreibernehmer war Jane J. Riley. Und die Bücher aus meiner ersten Frau war Jane Seelen Rice, Die Übermensch sein. Was published by Starks Versterlag or some shit like that. If you want to read one of the most interesting books ever written in the last century in Germany, it was written by my late wife, God rest her. This is the book here. Check it out. It's German. It's written in very high German too, by the way, so it might be a little confusing. Most German PhDs even have to read it a few times to follow what it is. Give me a second here, everybody. I feel like I've been like ranting for a while now, and I can't. I've like not been reading, so give me a second here. Okay, so we'll start at Chuck Norris 8 LSD. There we go. Hey man, wheat titties is a good term, man. I like wheat titties. This is a good term, man. Bear with me, everybody. I'm just reading everybody's messages to see what I'm missing. Do you smoke that? I will smoke it when it's done, yeah. I smoke it. I eat it. I make topicals from it. I do a lot of things with it. No, I consume that. I'm a legal medical producer in Canada, but also cannabis is legal in Canada. So every person in Canada is allowed to grow 4 plants, Cuber. Technically, it's not every person, it's every postal code. Let's be clear on that. So if you live with some roommates and they've already got 4 plants going, you don't get to grow. Or you can, you're just breaking the law. But technically, the laws in Canada, the actual wording states it's 4 plants in flower. That's not really, I think, what they meant it to be, but that is technically the wording of it. The School of Crop. Have I done this before? This specific technique? No, I invented it. I came up with it. I conceptualized it, and I'm just rolling with it. I've done elements of what I'm doing here. I've done before for sure, but I've been doing this a long time. I've done a lot of weird, different grows. For me, as someone who's grown so many different strains, I've run huge grows. I've consulted many grows. I still do that as part of my company. I consult large companies a lot. I teach a lot of people to grow of all different levels of skill. For me as a grower, especially for the channel, I mean, I think going forward for the channel, like I'm going to just start doing really weird grows and doing stuff that nobody's ever seen before, because that's part of the fun. Sorry, everybody. I keep forgetting that I got to read. Yeah, my first wife was German. Yeah. Yeah, she was from Bavaria, bro. Yeah, no, and that's a good statement actually. I like that. Soul Price. Soul Price says, most grows, if not all, in my opinion, are for educational purposes. And like one of the number one lessons that I've been saying to all of my students since day one is the true grower is the forever student, right? So every grow you do, you learn something new. If you do everything the same way every time, you're not a grower anymore. You're a Xerox machine. You've learned a singular formula. That's it. And for me, I'd rather learn all of mathematics. Obviously, I'm using that as an analogy in terms of growing, right? But so, you gotta play and have fun. I actually had a comment on the last video we released recently, which was really exciting, and it made me feel pretty excited. Someone was like, "Dude, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I've never thought of this. That's okay. No one has really, not quite in this way, the way I'm doing it. And they're going to try it out at home. And so like that for me is so rewarding. That is so exciting. Encouraging that excitement and that willingness to try something new and try it yourself and get out there and try some new techniques. Like, I mean, that's pretty dope. The School of Crop, I disagree. Find what works for you and stick to it. Well, School of Crop, if we're talking about commercial production, yeah, sure. Dial in your grow and then crank it out to make your money. That's commercial production. But a true grower is someone who never stops learning new ways of growing cannabis, because we're only as good as our ability to adapt to issue. The number one marking trait of any true grower, in my humble 2 cents, is the willingness and ability to adapt to the unknown. Especially for indoor growers. Okay, we're emulating Mother Nature. Okay, we are playing God in a sense. And so weird things can happen in an indoor grow. Weird things can happen and go the other way as a grower. So our ability to assess problems, think out of the box, use what we know, but then learn at the same time, critical thinking, these are the true skills of a grower. And I think I come from 6,000 years of farmers. Farmers would agree. Like, I mean, every season's going to be different. You're going to have different issues when it comes to your crops. And if you pacify yourself into a singular mindset of just doing what you think works, you will not always be successful. You have to have adaptability. Also, knowing what works, knowing ways to do things successfully, these are all important things too. That's what I spent the first 10, 15 years of my career doing. But, I'm approaching 2.5 decades now of doing this, and it's like I want to get weird with it, man. I want to have some fun with it, you know. Like I want to play around, or else I get bored. If I grow, this would be an awfully boring channel if I just grew everything. If I grew the same strain the same way every time, what would that make me? Maybe Mr. Canuck. I don't know. He's certainly bigger than I am, but that is due to corporate sellouts, and being a corporate dude. But like, I mean, you know, for me, I want to have fun with it, right? And I think when people can watch you as a grower, as a YouTuber, doing something new, doing something cool, doing something weird and different, it encourages them to be more confident in themselves. It encourages them to take risks. I say the true grower makes educated, stupid decisions, right? Like that's a big thing about being a grower. You know, you take what you know, and then you go into the unknown, and you play with it, right? Like, you know, did I know that this is going to do exactly what I thought it would? I was pretty sure it would, and it is. But like, it could have not. Like it could have gone awry. I could have fucked it up, and it could have went shitty. But so far, it's going pretty good. I'm having fun with it. So, I feel like I missed some messages here. Bear with me. School of Crop, buddy. Okay, this is where you're just so wrong, bud. You're just so wrong. Okay, it's not BS. This is medicine. You're right. I'm a medical patient. I'm a cancer survivor there, Cupcake. I've helped thousands of medical patients around the world be successful, okay? But I will never tell my students to do something exactly the same way, because you can always improve. You can always get better. How do we get better? Okay? One, the biggest learning thing for any grower is when you make a mistake. Mistakes teach you how to grow, okay? We learn more from mistakes than we do from successes. You'll remember the end product of a successful run, but what is really beneficial is when you screw up and you actually learn a mistake you did, and then you learn how to fix that. That is what makes a grower. And at the end of the day, yeah, you can produce your medicine and more than easily produce enough medicine. No one human needs, like there's medical licenses in Canada where people are like, I need to consume 150 grams a day. Bullshit. Nobody needs to consume that level of weed. Not even Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg does it because he likes it, okay? The fact of the matter is anyone can produce more than enough medicine with even just 4 plants, okay? But they could still try something new. They can always improve, right? Because even if something works and you did a great job, you can always make it better. You can always have a more successful grow. You can have a better yield. You can have a better end result. You can augment the plant's growing techniques to actually augment your final terpenes and cannabinoids. So really, like, I mean, look, if it works for you, living a boring life of a Xerox machine as a grower, awesome. I'm gonna support your right to that. But that's not what I'm gonna teach people, because it's just not the way I see it. And I would rather be someone who's adaptable, who can grow in any environment and deal with problems. That's that's a grower to me. You know, that's my humble 2 cents on it. But I respect your opinion, my friend. I may not agree with you, but I respect it. And I'll defend your right to have it. Yeah, so Joe Burns, you got to remember that within the actual genome of a plant, okay, right? So, like, let's say you got 100 seeds, okay, of exactly the same strain. They all even came, it was a big bud. You got them all from one bud, let's say, really highly seeded bud. They can come from literally the same bud and have completely different realities. This is because different phenotypes locked within that genome will have different personality traits. So that's when we're truly breeding cannabis. A true breeder is doing what is known as a pheno hunt. We're going through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of plants and finding those special ones, the ones with the desired genetic traits. Like, think about it this way. A man and a woman, right, have 10 kids, right? They're not all going to look alike necessarily. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes some are tall, sometimes some are short. Sometimes they're fat, sometimes they're thin. Some are good at math, the others are really good at basketball. Some are good at both. Some are good at none of those, right? Like, genetics are a funny thing. So the genetic genome of the cannabis plant and different strains has an infinitesimal world of possibility locked within the possibilities of that. So that's in part what you're going to be seeing. Sometimes too, you'll have plants be a little bit smaller. Maybe certain things will have happened where even if it's the same as the other plant, that plant struggled to develop its root system, right? Where the other one next to it. So, like, for example, if you ever have 4 plants, all the same strain, all fairly similar even, But you notice that like 1 out of 4 is like struggling to dry out its root medium and its root ball. That's because it has an underdeveloped root system, right? You can do certain things to augment that, but every genetic's going to be a little bit different for show. You could even have plants that are clones from the same mother plant being basically treated the same way that'll have different end results. That is also a possibility. The school of crop. Experimenting is for content creators. No, experimenting is for someone with a fucking brain there, Cupcake. Do you think that the breeders of cannabis that invented modern weed, do you think that new growing techniques, do you think that new growing technologies, new ideas come from doing stuff the same every time? No, they come from experimentation. They come from trial and error. It's called the scientific method, honey. Read a book. Sorry, everybody, I'm just reading now. Oh, Jay Blaze, because it's fun. I'm having fun with it. Gotta remember, everybody, sometimes I'm gonna have fun with the little trolls that kind of come in and they're little being ignoramuses. I mean, I like to have fun with them. It's fun. I'm not upset. I'm having fun with it. It's you know, if anything, this person is just proving all my points all the while for me, and it's giving me new words and ideas to prove my point. So in a sense, it's a lot of fun. Crips, I think people experiment after failing their last grow. I mean, you're not wrong for some people, for sure. But my last grow went really well. I got bored. I want to do something new. And I'm having fun. Actually, it was fun. I was talking to Gazzers the other day, everybody. And Gazzers brought back, because I had kind of forgotten about the original thing that led me to sort of thinking this way about what we're doing on this run, too, was that originally I wanted to do, 3 or 4 plants to a table, and then doing that with suspended bars and training them out that way. And then I wanted to then take the time to try and have a singular mounted plant grid, sort of in a grid system. So there'd be like 4 quadrants, and training them out into 4 different quadrants in a giant central pot. And I had totally forgotten that that was actually where some of these thoughts had started coming from years ago, at the last lab. You know what I'm saying? So really, at the end of the day, shit, I gotta get back into a bigger space so I can have the space to really play with some stuff. You know what I'm saying? Oh, it's all good, Anthony. Just someone just being contrarian. We'll leave it at that. Yeah, so Joe Burns, typically, like, I don't really have the space to do a great pheno hunt here. Like, I can grow out, I could probably, well, in terms of my license, I can grow a lot more plants than I have the space for here. Because typically how I like to pheno hunt really is I'll grow things out to completion while then taking clones of all the things that I'm seeing through the vegetation and early flower that I really like. And then I'll keep those ones, and then I make my final decisions after that initial run. That's the best way. It's a little bit longer that way, but it gives you the best picture of what each phenotype is doing too at the same time. But it does take space. It takes a lot of space. And that's one thing I definitely miss is I miss having the space to do these things. Roman Reckless says, I hang it with the root still and I spray it with a little water every now and then for the first few days, dude. A pop of smell comes off strong as fuck. You know what, Roman? That makes a lot of sense, though. What you're doing is you're keeping the whole entity intact. Those roots are filled with active cannabinoids that can then, if you hang it upside down, they're going to go down into your branches, into your buds. And also, by misting your root systems and keeping them attached, you're elongating the cellular death of the drying process, which is a beneficial thing, which is, because again, I always say, you want to elongate the cell death of the plant when you're drying as long as possible. Because that's really going to help push those final uses of sugars and push on the cannabinoids and all of that. So I dig it. And I'll honestly say, I don't think I've ever done that, Roman. I've hung plants with their roots attached a couple times. But I like that idea though, bro. That's really cool. Like continuing to mist them a little bit just to slightly elongate that cell death. I think that's rad. That's very rad. Dirty worm clips. Why risk yield experimenting? Won't that hurt your channel? No, nothing hurts my channel. I just have fun. I've been doing weird things on YouTube for a long time, everybody. And I have a successful enough run every single time. There's been times where bad shit's happened and I've owned it. I've been up front. I think making mistakes and having occasional runs that aren't perfect makes me all the more real. I'm not hiding anything from anyone. I'm not like every other YouTube channel out there that hides their mistakes and just tries to like make it all glitzy and fake. I'm real with people, man. And I think that's really one of the number one reasons why my channel's done well is because I don't hide shit from people and I'm upfront. Dude, Roman, dude, hats off to you. I've never ever thought of that. That is a very cool concept and a very cool technique. I really dig it, bro. So Jonathan Ribeiro, how to germinate old seeds? Obviously, it is tricky. Like if seeds aren't properly stored, germination rate does go through the floor. You can, on a really old seed, you can file down the little end of it there. That's going to help the water to pierce through that kind of hardened old cellulose that's making up the exterior of that seed. You can use H2O2, which is going to add extra or extra oxygen. That'll help to invigorate. You can use mild nutrients also. Sometimes that can be a fun little kick to get it going. Maintaining optimal temperatures of roughly 23 degrees Celsius, both in terms of your soak or your germination, is going to help. You can use heating pads to also help do that. Just be very careful with those because it's easy to fuck that up. I'll be completely honest. I have seen products too out there that actually are marketed as enzymatic products that help to reinvigorate and actually get old beans to pop and grow better. I've never played with any of these. I've just read about them. That's one of the things that I'd love to, because I've definitely got some old beans. I've got beans that are like 50, 60 years old in my collection, much older than I am. And I think it would be a fun experiment to try to get one of those products and see how that works. You know what I'm saying? So there's a few different tricks for sure, though, that you can do for sure. See, and in Canada, Joe, I mean, technically, in Canada, it's 4 plants in flower and as many as you want in veg, technically, is how the law is written. But you're better off than most Canadians. So at least you can do kind of a double cycle. You can get the next 6 going and then, flip 6 and then rotate it that way. As a medical patient, I'm allowed a lot more than that. Not that I currently have the space for it, but that's a function of my tiny apartment rather than what I want to do. Jerks Can says, I drank some Epsom salt by accident. Well, it's just magnesium sulfate. I don't know. Is Epsom salt toxic? I don't think magnesium sulfate is going to be toxic. I wouldn't recommend doing that, though. I mean, do you feel okay? If you feel sick, go to the doctor. How did you drink Epsom salt? Did you dissolve it in water and forget and then grab the glass? That's my question. How did that even happen? Surah Al Shama says, how much does it cost? Is it expensive? How much does what cost, Surah? I'm happy to give you my honest 2 cents on pricing on things, but it depends on what your question is. Hey, peace and love, wonky donkey. Much love, man. It's all good. Yeah, no, I feel you, Joe Burns. PM sucks, bro. Welcome back, Cuba XX. I agree. So, Roman, that's a very good point. When dealing with pruning back PM infestation on a vegging plant, because if it hits you in flower, I would just toss it, honestly. But pruning back much further than where you see the PM is also a very advisable thing, because when you see PM, it's already set in quite bad. It's kind of like with spider mites. If you see webs, you have a lot of them. Usually, the initial infestation happens well before that. Yeah, the school of crop, that was a very legitimate technique. And it wasn't dipping it into straight canola oil. It was utilizing canola oil as a top layer on water as a treatment for bugs. And that works there, Cupcake. So, nice try, though. Go try again. Anthony, I've never tried Quality Chirp Seed Booster, but it sounds like an enzymatic product of which I was referencing, and it very well could work. I've never tried any of these products. I've just read about them, but the theory behind it does work. So Dirk's can, in terms of utilizing the carbonated water technique, you can do it in veg. I don't really see a huge benefit to it. Like there is a benefit and a slightly greater vigor for sure in your vegetation. I typically will start utilizing carbonated water roughly 2 weeks into my flowering window. Jay Blaze says day 6 of drying. Humidity is 58, temperature is 18 degrees. Stems ain't snapping yet. That's good. You want a nice long window. In the perfect world, you want your actual drawing window to be 7 to 14 days. So it sounds like you're right on track to doing it well and doing well. So Sura El Shama in Canada, that Canada, it's really cheap across the board now. Legal weed at the stores was very expensive when it first came out. It's come down a lot in general too in response to the market. There was a point in time where cannabis was very expensive in Canada. Cannabis is quite cheap in this modern day and age now. It's put a lot of people out of business. And it's quite prevalent throughout the United States of America too, like prices just falling through the floor. There's a lot of people who owned state level legal grows that were licensed producers that have had to basically shut down shop because they can't afford to stay in business as a small farm. So that's where some of these bigger farms are able to survive because it's like, big business and small business. There's no difference to that. They did not turn out fried. They turned out just fine. Their school of crop, but it's all right, bunny. It's okay. Go cry to your mommy. Joe, what happened to YouTube's biggest seed giveaway? It's called that. All those seeds were intercepted. That was being donated. A majority of those seeds by gazzers. They got intercepted. And then I had a divorce and got arrested and had a legal battle for a year to prove that she lied. So sadly, that kind of got in the way of us doing that. One day we'll do that again, but we're not in a position to produce the seeds requisite for that, nor is Gazzers because he's been fighting legal realities in New Zealand as well and is under home arrest currently. Buzz says tips. Clones won't root. 80% humidity, 80% Fahrenheit. Same light as seedlings. Using Clone X. Scraping outer layer off. Try putting it in water or soil. Okay, so some strains in general are almost impossible to clone. That is just the way it is. If you're not utilizing rooting hormone, I would strongly suggest utilizing a rooting hormone. When you find strains that are a little bit trickier to clone, I like to do the double dip technique. So first you're going to dip it in a rooting hormone gel. Then you're going to dip it into a powder. Certain strains prefer powders. Certain strains prefer gels. And that's really going to be the best way to kind of go about it. And again, at the end of the day, some things are just really hard to clone. Like there are strains out there that just are beyond frustrating to try to clone. When it comes to those types of strains, sometimes your only real option is to kind of go with the tissue culture way of doing it. You know what I'm saying? No, no, I didn't, Joe. Me and Gazzers are still very close friends. If that were the case, that wouldn't be so. Oh, man. Billie Jean says, hey, curious on your opinion. Say hypothetically, you live in a place where plants aren't that easy to get at all. Okay. But you finally met the right people and got a few cuttings. Woo. Okay, cool. So far, I'm on board with you. What are we talking about? What's up, True Aussie Ray? Good to see you, buddy. Good morning to you as well. No, okay. So then Billie Jean says, you then get home, inspect the ladies, and find spider mites. Yeah. No. Sweet. You neem the shit up for 2 weeks. Wait 2 weeks. You see them. You sulfur that whole thing. Wait 2 weeks, and they're still there. Okay. So again, I find that a lot of the different variations, especially the classic two-dotted spider mite. Okay. They're resistant to neem oils now. They even seem to be developing a sulfur resistance too. Um, if you don't want to get rid of them, what is your next step? Really, honestly, if you have the ability to do a tissue culture clone and then eradicate the infected plants, that would be a way about it. But that's like really hard, and most people don't have access to that. I guess your next step would be to see if you can get your hands on any beneficial bugs that are going to try to eat those and deter them from being there. You could try also putting them into a room with companion plants and still staying on top of what you've been doing to treat them. And then maybe those companion plants will, scare them away too. Um, that's tricky, and it's a tough situation to be in for sure. It's hard for you to get plants, and then you've got all these things for show. So Dirks can. Why did you sell out to Mars? I didn't sell out to Mars. I did a single run. And then I called them out and started my own lighting brand. I was willing to try the Mars light. I said yes to trying a light. That's not a corporate sellout. I never received a single penny for it. I didn't get paid to do it. And then that led me to launching my own lighting brand. But nice try there, Dirks. Ooh, we're having fun today. Ooh, relevance is coming back. All the haters are coming back, trying to come at Potsquatch. This is so fun. Billie Jean says, yeah, H2O2, alcohol, pithrin, and nothing has worked. I've even used canola oil with water on the ground. I killed a bunch of the mites, but there are still some. Banging my head, currently 3 out of 7. No, that sounds very frustrating, my friend. I would honestly say, see if you can get like a Cusimaris predatory mite. That may be the ticket. I would say nuke it with everything you've been doing, getting it as low as you can, washing off the plants. So spray it down with water, wash them out, shake them off so you don't have any of the actual insecticidal realities left. Then introducing like a Cusimaris predatory mite into there might be a way to go about it. Squatch, they have been sent. Yes, I know, right? They've been descending on me now. All right, come at me, cupcakes. Let's do it. All right. It's good to be relevant again. It's good to be seen. It's fun. It's fun. Billie Jean says, ladies have been cut up into 40 cuttings to try and treat them individually. Okay, and trying to save at least one. No, that makes sense because I can't get other cuttings is kind of it. What would you do to try at least have one survive? I mean, if you've got the space, segregate them all individually and begin different types of attacks. Again, beneficial predatory mites, incorporating that after nuking it hard with everything else that you've already been doing, and then segregation. To be fair, spider mites do not like the cold, so it's kind of like chemo in that we introduce chemo into a human's body and hoping that the cancer dies before the human's body dies. You could do something like that. You could do a shock cold treatment and hopefully kill the bugs before the plant dies. That's going to take care of adults. I honestly don't think that that's going to be overly effective to the eggs themselves that would have been laid, because I'm pretty sure they can weather that. So simply put, what I would do is maybe nuke it the way you've been doing it, do a cold treatment, then take it out and introduce a Cusimaris, because Cusimaris predatory mites will eat the eggs for sure, and they'll go do that for show. Hey, Joe Burns, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in, and may the grandchildren have a beautiful day as well. I hope you have fun, my friend. Mudswat says, trying my sample bud of Super Skunk. Holy crap, it's amazing. I haven't had weed like this since 1984. Dude, that's super cool, man. Hell yeah. Yes, so True Aussie Ray. Hey, no worries, Billie Jean. I appreciate you too, baby. At True Aussie Ray, I have utilized predatory mites. Typically a Cusimaris predatory mite, and I've also used soil-bound ones. I can't remember the name of what that species was off the bloody top of my head, though. That was like 3 or 4 years ago, and I can't remember what they were. But yes, I have played around with predatory mites, and they're not gonna fix a huge infestation, but if you use them in succession with other techniques and layering of it, it usually will do pretty well. Now, this is at Mudswat. So was your test bud, did it smell skunky? Did it smell and taste skunky? Uncle Dunk, would I fight? Like, do you mean if I could shrink down to the size of a spider mite, would I go and fight it myself? Funnily enough, I think in a live stream at one point in time, I was quite stoned. And I don't know if I thought of the idea or if someone thought of the idea. It may have been me. And I like was talking about if I could shrink down like Ant-Man and go into my plants and fight the spider mites myself. If I had an Ant-Man suit or had that ability, yeah, I'd try it out. Why not? Potsquatch dies. But why not? If the technology was there, that would be fun. Oh, I'm also excited too. I think we're only about a month off now before the next or the strike that we currently have on the channel is gone. So I'm looking forward to that. We got that one for making the seed bank video for everyone, and they got really mad about that. YouTube was not a fan, which is funny because they were legal companies and it's legal where I live. I'm not doing anything illegal, but YouTube's still behind all of us, right? But I think that'll be done soon, though. And yeah, what can we talk about? Oh, right, yes. Let's go back to what we're going to be doing on this the next steps for the plant here, though. So we're going to strip out those bottom branches. We're going to continue strapping things down. We're going to stay on top of selective defoliation. I actually think one thing I might do too is I'm actually going to go through on certain areas where it's quite densely packed with secondaries, and I'm going to select some out and thin it out a bit, picking the best of the secondary branches to remain, then while removing the ones that I'm like, well, you're just going to be robbing from our yield here. So basically, yeah, defoliation, we're going to well, it's not really lollipopping anymore in a sense. I guess it kind of is. We're going to be doing the equivalent of lollipopping, where we're going to be taking off any secondary, lower branches that haven't really been incorporated to the V canopy yet. We're just going to remove those because they're just going to rob energy from things anyway. And then we're going to go through, defoliate, and then we'll selectively pick what secondaries that we're going to allow to become primaries when we flip to flower in roughly a week and a bit, and kind of go from there, really. We've been feeding pretty normally. Using our 3-part system from Green Planet. I've been utilizing their resin product. I've been utilizing leftover coffee in my waterings. I have yet to do a top dressing with coffee grounds. I'll probably do that this week, though. It's not something you typically want to do when you're in flower because it's quite high nitrogen levels in the coffee itself, which isn't, a huge requirement going into flower and actually can at times rob you of your final yield. But so we'll probably introduce some coffee grounds. I'm probably going to this time, where in the past I've just top dressed with them, I'm probably going to mix them in with some dirt and then wet it down and then top dress with that. And then just kind of letting it do its thing and watching what it does and kind of staying on top of that. But yeah, no, it's good. I'm genuinely having fun again, though, everybody. Like that's one of the things I'm really excited about. I'm having a lot of fun. Mudswat says, anyone else harvesting soon, or have you harvested already? Yeah, I'm kind of curious about that too. It's Croptober, as we classically call it. In terms of people here, I think a lot of people are still running. Outdoor harvests in this part of the world typically are going to be end of October, early November these days, it seems. So I think there's quite a few people that are still kind of trying to push them here. The thing that's hard here is our temperatures do drop off, and then we run the risk of the fact that the rains are about to start here in terms of outside as well. Jay Blaze, you good to go for the movie in November? The movie's not filming in November. The movie is now shooting in February, but it may get pushed to October as well. You never know. Lots of pre-production stuff and all of that. But I'm good to go when they're ready to shoot the movie. I will go when they send me a ticket and tell me to show up in Costa Rica to shoot the movie, and I'll be there. Jansen Dennis says, Southern Ontario, left loud, I'm done and hanging. All right, so there we go. Because you're in the, roughly Hamilton area, right, Jansen? Yeah, right? Mudswat, it's better safe than sorry. The second you see certain things setting in, and if you're this close to the end of the season, I say just pull it and just get her done. Okay, cool. So a lot of people in Southern Ontario, or, well, technically Hamilton, I would call that Southwestern Ontario in my mind, but they've been pulling. So that's cool. How about everyone else? Who here is growing outside? I know I said I was going to do some plants outside this year, but I just didn't. Oh, by the way, Texas Squatch was bitching at me the other day, everybody. So I've decided and figured out what we're going to be doing for the next grow. We're finally going to be growing out Mikey's beans. People have been asking me for the better part of a decade to grow out some autoflowers. I've resisted because I am not a fan of autoflowers. I'm not an autoflower guy. It's not my happy place. Not that I don't respect what autoflowers are. I respect what their lineage is. I respect what they've become. I totally and fully acknowledge that autoflowers in many ways are light years ahead of where they once were. Yield has gone up, potency's gone up, everything's improved. I'm still a photo period guy, but I am going to do some of Mikey's autos in the next run. In homage of Texas Squatch, we're going to be doing some autos. And I think, if I'm remembering the ones he sent me, I believe they are a Schnozberry F2. But I'd actually have to check the vials he sent me to know that, because I'm going off memory here. But, so basically, simply put, we're going to be doing some autoflowers next. And I'm curious to see how quickly we can get these to finish under squatch lights and inside. I'm very curious. Like, it'll be a fun experiment to do with something that was created by one of our own, though, too, right? So, Roman Reckless says, I sent you a pic before of the outdoor. I'm gonna try to pick my sour diesel next week and pull the rest in maybe 3 weeks. Hell yeah, buddy. Mudswat says 3 Bears OG was funky too. Hell yeah. Mudswat says I've had 5-foot autos outdoors. Damn, that's not bad. Like I said, man, autoflowers have come a long way since the lowrider number 1 and the lowrider number 2. This is true, Jansen. I do like having more control over my grows. It's why I prefer growing inside. It will be an interesting. It will be an interesting thing to see how frustrated I get growing autos. But I told Texas Squatch I would do it, so we're gonna do it. We're gonna rock some autos with Texas Squatch's autos. And let's be fair, I'm probably going to break some rules and I'm probably going to fuck around with them. We'll see what happens. I don't know. We'll find out what happens, though. Hell yeah, Jay Blaze. What do you think you're going to do outdoors? WB Growers, instead of using a non-bitter and added isopropyl alcohol, you're using Everclear. Totally fine. I would use Everclear if I had access to it. Such things are illegal in Canada unless you hold a winery or winery license or a booze producing license, because typically they'll use a bioethyl alcohol, which is very similar to a moonshine. That's basically pure booze to clean everything. So they're allowed to have it. I'm not allowed to have it as a Canadian citizen. I can't buy Everclear here, sadly. That's why I use a non-bitter and added ISO. It's cost effective, it's accessible, and it works. I actually, funnily enough, just did some RSO myself. I had to make some tinctures for a local cancer patient, and so I made those tinctures last night. But I've got the oil right here that I finished up yesterday. Came out really nice though. See if we can flip the camera here for everybody. Turned out really nice. This final thing, we ended up getting about 19 and a half or so grams or so. Oh, but it's got a beautiful smell. And I mean, it takes me back to high school too. Like, I used to love just using like a old school hash oil, rolling like a big oiler tube and like just toking it up. So later tonight when I'm ready for bed, when I get all my chores done, I might roll up an old school oiler tube just like we did just back in the day. Anthony, I'm not an auto guy either. You know that. Everybody knows that. I've said that for the better part of 10 years. But Texas Squatch made some autos, and he loves his autos. And so does Ben. Ben also loves his autos. He hasn't been around much. We still talk in our own lives. But so in honor of both Texas Squatch and Big Ben there, I'm gonna do some auto runs. Well, one. I'm gonna do one auto run. I'm gonna run Mikey's, and to be fair, I think I've got one or two other autos in my collection from years ago that someone gifted me. One was a skunk mass by something. So maybe we'll run a couple of Mikey's and then a couple of those and see what happens, just for fun. Roman, I still do that. That's what I'm gonna do later. I'm gonna take myself, grab my Potsquatch Growers papers. I'm gonna slap some hash oil on there, buddy, and roll a big old oiler, just like we used to do back in high schools. True Aussie Ray, seed storage, fridge or freezer? If it's for long-term storage, I would keep it in the freezer for sure. You can also store things long-term as long as, because it's not so much that you need super cold temps necessarily. The real trick is having a constant temperature and keep them away from light. So, like, for example, if you're storing them in a place that has a consistent, like let's say 17, 18, or 19 degrees Celsius, you can store them that way too, but the easiest way is just throw them in the freezer. Yeah, no, I know. Well, Anthony, I mean, you know, Texas Squatch sent me his creation of I believe they're the F2 Schnozberries. So I told Mikey I'm going to do a run with some of those in his honor. And then, you know, and Ben likes those. And then we're going back now probably 5 or 6 years. Someone else sent me one of their own creations, which was an autocross the creation that they did. And so I added it. I'll add autos into my collection. I just don't typically work with them. But yeah, just to be different, have some fun, do something strange and weird that I don't normally do it. Yeah, I just call it hash oil typically, Mud Swat. I mean, I've always taken issue with people calling it RSO. Rick Simpson didn't invent it. It existed for a very long time. He just found an application. Mad respect to his application and discovery in terms of its treatment for melanomas and all that. But no, so WB growers, you do not need to decarb, okay, when decarbing your plant material going before is actually going to eliminate a lot of the and remaining moisture in your flower material, which you actually want in your oil for when you're tempering it and finishing it. And remember, when we're doing our initial cook down, we're reducing a majority of the alcohol out of it. And then I go into a jar and then I finish that in boiling, well, not quite boiling, but close to boiling water. And then I actually finish the oil off now in the oven. I don't know if I did that in that video, but that's what I do now. So like for this stuff, I reduced it down like 95%. I then put the little bit of remaining stuff into this jar. This jar would have been filled. I reduced it down to where it was almost like here. And then I threw it into the oven to finish it. Put my oven to 150 degrees Fahrenheit. And it was probably in there for about, 20 minutes or so. But the natural cooking process of what we're doing is going to allow for any THCA to drop that extra carbon atom, and it's going to decarb by the process of doing this. This oil that I did, I actually used plant material that I've been aging for 3 years in. So this RSO was made from stuff that was 3 years old that I've been storing. And it turned out wonderful. Like, it's so golden. There's no chlorophyll whatsoever in this stuff. And it's proven really good. So, I don't know. Maybe there's something to be said for, like, long-term storage and aging of cannabis and then turning it into your oil. I mean, I've been quite happy with the results on that, for sure. So, I hope that helps, by the way, and that's at WB Growers. at least adding my humble 2 cents to it. But I wouldn't worry about having to decarb your flower before going into it, for sure. I wouldn't worry about that because it's going to naturally decarb by the production process anyway. What's up, Momanic Meds? What's crack-lagging? Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, see, right? Like, everybody has their different ways of doing it. Roman's got his way of he likes to do it. I mean, I've been doing mine essentially the same way since I was a kid. I've definitely refined my techniques a little bit. But like the only real most recent addition is sort of doing that sort of final sit at about 150 or 140 degrees Fahrenheit in my oven. I've been quite liking doing that. Make sure you use a tempered glass jar, by the way, that's not going to shatter on you. That's kind of important. And then after that, I let it chill in the fridge for a couple of days. So I'll temper it in the fridge, and then it's good to just go into the cupboard. That's how I like to finish it. Billie Jean, I'm just drinking some PBR, but it's cheap. And cheap in Canada still isn't cheap. So beer costs a lot of money where I live. Typically, a 2.4 of PBR in Canada, where I'm at, is going to cost you about anywhere from 50 to 60 bucks. Hey, I like pressing too, everybody. I got my rosin press right here. It's a little dusty. I haven't used it in a while. I got to clean it, but I got some beautiful. So when I was working for Trim Test and Press, we were running some stuff for one of his clients, and they let me keep like a big ball of sort of the keef that came out of like the keef bag from the trim machines. So I've actually formed those into pucks, put them into bags, and I've had it in the freezer now for a number of weeks, all sealed up. And eventually I'm going to dust this old rosin press off, and I'm going to press a bunch of that shit out too. I'm excited about it. I just love rosin. Making rosin is so good. Okay, so remember, cannabinoids are only partially hydrophobic. You can get them to become water soluble, but you need a micro emulsifier, which uses sonic sound waves actually to break down the partially hydrophobic nature of cannabinoids. So you can actually, like, that's how they make cannabis drinks now. Okay, so it is possible. Honestly, if you want to make something that doesn't taste like shit, age your shit, make a hash. Make the hash into oil or a rosin. That is how you're going to reduce flavor the most, and by aging it. And when I say age it, I say like sit on your plant material for 2 or 3 years, curing it in a jar, and then use that. That is going to give you the mildest tasting product of something you can produce at home. So that's how I would approach that. So Jansen Dennis, I typically, like when I'm doing oil, I'll use like a jar like this as my main soak. Okay, so this will be full. Then I filter that into a pot. I use a ceramic pot to cook it down. I reduce it down in that ceramic pot until Like 95% of it's been reduced. Then I just dump that from the pot into that little jar. Then I refill that same pot with water and then hot water. Then I put that jar into it and I bring that temperature up slowly while that's sitting in the water. And then again, it's a waiting game. You wait till that reduces down like 80-90%. Then I pull that off. While I'm doing that, I've got my oven preheating to like about $140 Fahrenheit. So that'd be kind of like here on my settings of my oven. Then by the time I'm ready for that to go to the oven's at its temp, and then I just throw that in. Typically, just to protect myself from shatters. Oh, it's in the dishwasher. But like I use like a metal half hotel pan here, and that's when I put my jar into the oven to do it, and it's good to go. Hell yeah, Roman Reckless. I don't think I've heard of any of those strains. Brown sugar, turbinado, cinnamon, and Irish butter. Untraded Kitson's Media. My buds are dense and sticky. Is that good? Typically, yes. That is what all of us are desiring. So typically, yes. I mean, in my mind, and a majority of people's minds, having super dense, super sticky buds, these are desirable traits. So that is good. Yes, that is good. Also, Kenneth R. Knox, if you are watching at home, I saw your message on Messenger come up. I will respond to it after the show. Oh, they're actual apples. Sorry, Roman. I thought you were talking about actual strains, but you were talking about actual apples. Well, there we go. That's funny. That's a weed show. I don't know. I figured they were just, there's so many strains I've never heard of now that have, everyone and their grandma's making their quote unquote own strain these days. So you never know. But we are, in fact, talking about real apples. I love it. Irish butter strain. Oh, that's funny. Oh, what would Irish butter be a strain? Like, what kind of strain would that be? I think it'd be Sadie. You still there, little Chewy Stewie? If you're still there, what do you think would go into a strain that would be called Irish butter? I feel like it would be Sadie. I feel like it'd be Sadie. And creamy somehow. Butterlicious. Hey man, I'd smoke it too. I'm curious. That's what I think, WB Growers. I think it would definitely, like, if there was something Irish butter, I think it would be sat heavy. But if you could create a strain that was sat heavy, but then had the buttery textures of the deep indica, like oily grease, you know what I'm saying? That could be cool, because then it would have a good, like, oil return ratio, which, like, a lot of sats don't. If you could do that, like, that would maybe be something you could call Irish butter. Mud swat. You ever seen a flower leak oil? Well, I've seen buds and plants leak sap. Yes. It's not really oil per se, but yes, I've seen quote unquote like sappy buds or buds leak sap. Yep, I've seen that. Actually, one thing that I'll say, which was really cool about the blue cheese Girl Scout cookies we've got going on in our little playing around here. I was defoliating just with like my hands the other day, so I just kind of pinch off at the little stem to the fan leaf, and I was going through and then I pulled my fingers out. It's still in veg, and it was sticky. Like just the defoliation and the sort of sap lifeblood of the leaf was just so sticky. And I was like, all right, that's not a bad sign, everybody. That's not a bad sign at all. We've already got some little trikes even developing on these things too. Also not a bad sign to see when we're in veg, to see a bunch of trikes happening. So that's kind of exciting too. Momanic Med says, I got donkey butter. It's buttery kind of. And I don't know if I've had donkey butter.
Maybe I've had something donkey that had donkey in the name. Um, and if I'm remembering correctly, yeah, I think I found that one kind of almost buttery in a sense. Peanut butter breath. That one was kind of buttery in a weird way too. Like a desirable type of butteriness to that strain though, for sure. Oopsie. Well, so my friends, my family, we're slowly approaching. Oh, we just hit it. The hour and a half mark. I wish I could go for the next 3 hours for everybody. I will try to bring shows back where I go for longer again. I'm still acclimatizing, even though it's been like a month and a half, going on 2 months now. This new job of working all the time and working early mornings and going to bed like an adult and living an adult life, living an adult job. It's weird. 15 years of off and on bartending, and then now I'm a salaried employee working for a large company, working with tools in my hands all day now. It's weird, but it's been going good. It's going good. I'm still adjusting to that. To be honest with you, it's only 3:30 here right now, and I think there's a very good choice. I might have a nap for a little bit. WB Growers. I mean, if you were close, I would definitely try growing a Fresno chili for show. Mudswat says, "How do you ship a clone?" Typically, there's clone shippers, which actually have little lights built into them. Probably the easiest way is you're not really shipping the clone per se. What you're shipping is, in fact, a cutting, and then hoping to God it doesn't die by the time it gets where it's going. Typically, people will. Yes, it's a live stream. During the live stream, if you're new here, this used to be a thing on the show because I used to drink a lot in these shows. It's nothing weird. I just, beer, diuretics, it happens. But they'll put it into a vial too. That's true. Or like I've seen people do a lot where they'll wrap the cut part of the cutting on the stem in like wet paper towel, and then send them out that way. For rooted clones, there are clone shippers that are like these tiny little things that you can have your clone in and then send those. That's kind of a thing too. It's weird. But like there are ways. There are ways. It's never a guarantee, obviously. Both one, getting through the mail, or two, getting through the mail and not dying. But it is possible. It is possible. Dude, Billie Jean, I think that's a great name. If you save even just one of your cuttings, I think you should name her Irish Butter. Do it. It'll be a good name for the plant. It's been a while since I've named my plants. I used to name my plants, especially when I found like really exciting phenotypes or something. I'm not leaving right away, by the way, everyone. I'm gonna have another beer. All on the show soon. But like I remember when we were running the Sasquatch strain, and remember we had that dark mama pheno. That was my favorite phenotype of the Sasquatch strain. And she was a special lady. And she was I called her the Dark Mama pheno. We ran her a bunch on the channel. We ran her initially, then we re-vegged, and then we ran monster crop clones of her, and she was the special lady. I did enjoy the Dark Mama pheno, but it's been a hot minute since I've named anything. I haven't named this plant yet, but maybe I will. But I don't have it yet. I have ideas, but we'll wait till she goes into flower. I feel like I normally name them when they go into flower. When I start seeing their flower formations, that's really where their names come from. Their personalities begin to, exhibit themselves. Right? No, and that's true, Roman. Like, there are definitely certain strains that do leave that kind of almost a film in your mouth. I'm trying to think of the last time I smoked something like that. It's been a while. A terp film, yeah, I like it. But that's true though, right? Like, I mean, but yeah, like for example, peanut butter breath. I feel like peanut butter breath was definitely one of those sort of almost filmy on the palate type of a things. You know what I'm saying? I definitely feel like that was one of them for sure. Sorry, everybody, I'm just reading. Yeah, no, that's true too. That's true too, Roman. 100%, bro. Anthony says, getting that time now. Cool show, even though I missed it in the beginning. Thanks, Squatch. Hey, no worries, Anthony. Thank you for tuning in, brother. And I'm glad you have fun, man. It's been a good show, and it's fun. We had some good questions. We had some good conversations. We definitely had some new people, which was always fun. We had some people from other parts of the world kind of joining us in the show, which is always fun too. I'm pretty sure we had some people speaking Russian and some people speaking Elvish. I'm not sure. Or maybe it was like half Elvish, half something else. Who knows? But it was good though. We had some trolls too. Gotta have fun with that, right? It's been a hot minute. I was surprised when we had those really big shows. Before we got the strike, we were getting like shows. We were having like 1.8 to 2.6 thousand views in a show. We'll get back there. The strike really screwed up our numbers so hard, but it's just the YouTube algorithm. What are you gonna do, right? But it's been a good show though. It's been fun, right? Just to recap, though, for those who are just new here, remember updates on the experiment and the grow that we're doing right now. We'll call it squatch lining. That will be on Tuesdays, so you get your updates on Tuesdays with that. Okay. Updates on Tuesdays. Excuse me. What else can we share? Yeah, that's all I really got for now. But Roman, you're not wrong in that regard, for sure. And then also too, like, I actually think in Canada too, at least when it comes to like the big grows, they've legitimately got rules on moisture content going in. I think also part of it is I think a lot of legal weed from these legal things may have been okay at one point when it goes out and gets packaged, but then it just sits there for so long. I've seen reports, at least. I mean, because I don't really buy legal weed, but I just produce my own or buy it from my friends who also grow. But I've seen certain things that'll come and like they've been sitting in that container for over a year before I bought them or they bought them, right? Don't get me wrong, I've bought legal weed a couple of times, but like it's weird. Like you look at the packaging date and it's like this was packaged on such and such a date in 2020. Well, like right now, if you saw anything like 2022, 2023 early on in the year, and then you're like, whoa, we're like halfway through 2024 right now. What the buddy? No, we're more than halfway through 2024. Heck, 2025 is approaching, my friends. It's almost, we're in Halloween time, and then it's going to be November and Christmas before you know it in the new year. So that's scary. But a lot of weed from the big LPs here too has to be irradiated due to government regulation as well. So that's the thing, right? Yeah, well, the irradiation is what scares me the most. Like, I mean, having legal weed be maybe a little bit drier, that's less scary to me than the fact that a lot of these big weed producers are having to irradiate their weed under Canadian law, and that is somehow deemed safer for us as the consumer. That's just weird, ladies and gentlemen. That's just weird. Yeah, that and your local plug, really, Roman. And I mean, that's where I say, really, at the end of the day, everybody, I mean, grow your own cannabis. It's the best way. You can do it how you want. You can finish it how you want. You know what goes into it because you did it, right? Grow your own weed, love your plants, and have fun with it. I mean, that's the whole point. And at the end of the day, I think in the Canadian market, there are these new micro LPs, which they just changed the rules for, so they're allowed to be a little bit bigger now. When the first micro cultivation or micro LP license was first issued, I believe we were allowed 2,300 square feet of canopy. I believe that's been doubled, almost tripled now. So that's not bad. And like some of the stuff being produced by these producers is pretty good. And they do not have the same regulations as well as these large LPs. So they don't need to have irradiation done. They don't need to do X or Y or Z. And typically a lot of it is packaged and sent directly to the seller, which is interesting. It's kind of the way how it used to work a little bit. So There are slightly better options now in the legal market in Canada, coming from some of these micro LPs. I've worked at a few of them when I went in with Trim Test and Press to help them sort of automate and bring things down. Where automation is important for a lot of these micro LPs is cost of production and what sellers are wanting to acquire it for. Like it's almost impossible for these small companies to be profitable. They're not scalable because of the regulations. And it is so hard for them to be profitable in terms of what it costs to produce and then what they're looking to get per gram weight in terms of selling flour. So it's nice to see certain things being done for these micro LPs that makes it a little bit easier for them. But that's also why they bring in Trim Test and Press, because they're getting so little for what they're doing that anywhere where you can save money without destroying anything is a good way to go. And let's be fair, the work we do at Trim Test and Press when I go work with them, yeah, it's a machine trim. I'm a hand trimmer for all my shit, but it does a pretty damn good job though. It does a pretty damn good job. Oh, totally. Roman, I agree with you. There is that perfect. I think there's the perfect window for most strains. And I mean, that's a point of contention because I mean, everyone has a different opinion of when things are ready, but there's that perfect harvesting window. There's that perfect drying window. There's that perfect time to trim. And that leads to a perfect curing window. When you nail all of these steps on your final production, your curing and your finishing, I mean, it's amazing. Yo, what's happening, Buckaroo? That's a fun name. What's happening, Buckaroo? Good to see you. I don't remember seeing your name before. And if I have, I've forgotten. I apologize, but welcome to the show, my friend. I agree with you, true Aussie Ray. If you do a really nice run as a micro LP, get some really fast trimmers and hand trim. It definitely is better to go it that way. If you're an at-home grower, it may seem daunting to trim 2 or 3 or 4 plants. Try going in and doing a job where you're trimming 1,200 plants, right? So once you work in a larger scale world, it helps you get a little bit faster and it becomes less daunting. The real trick to trimming properly is you dry the whole plant, you go through, you bucket, which means you remove all the buds. Typically at this point too, if you want to segregate your tops and your smalls, that's when you're going to do that. Put that all together and then you go through and hand trim that. And it is possible to get very, very quickly. Or very, very quick at doing it. I'm pretty quick. At trimming, and I won't lie to you. So, when I go to grows and I work for Trim Test and Press, and so sometimes some of their crop will be really nice, and it's Dave will turn to me and he'll be like, "Josh, you were so fast. Trim this one by hand and then keep it to the side for them." So for the same cost and the same time, they're getting some of their crop done by hand, and we're like, yeah, so these plants were actually really good, so we just decided to hand trim it. We got it done in the same thing. That's upping the price point on it for them, right? So, yeah. Carrick Ledwick, do I smoke ice? If you mean crystal meth, fuck no, bud. I don't do drugs. I drink beer and I smoke weed, and once in a blue moon, maybe some magic mushrooms, I'll eat those, but no, I don't do drugs, bud. Not into drugs, Garrett. If anyone at home is struggling with addiction is real. It is diseased thinking, but try to get off that shit. It's not good for you. I also love mushrooms, Garrett. Mushrooms are good. Yeah, true Aussie Ray. Well, I'm not going to call them good strains because the weed could still suck. But things that have really nice flower formation, good density, and there's not tons of leaf to it, it is pretty easy to trim it properly. There are certain strains that the way they throw buds, it's just so much easier to trim them compared to other things. You know what I'm saying? I heard about that mud swat. I have never tried that. I've tried this, for example. This is, I don't know if it's local. I don't know where it comes from. One of my producer friends gave it to me, but it's called Harmonic Arts. It is a antioxidant-rich 5 mushroom blend. These are not psychedelic. These are just for health. In here you've got lion's mane. You've got cordyceps, turkey tail, chaga, reishi. I think those are the 5 there. Yeah, it's interesting. I just don't like how much they charge for these types of products, right? Like I would incorporate this into my daily life if it didn't cost $1 billion to buy like a small thing of powdered mushrooms. That's where for me, I'm like, a lot of people are like, well, Potsquatch, you should grow your own magic mushrooms. I'm like, why would I grow my own magic mushrooms when I already know the best magic mushroom producers around and I can get this shit for super cheap? I'm not going to waste my time doing that. But I would maybe start growing some of my own non-psychoactive mushrooms and seeing if I could get those set up in the house. That'd be kind of cool too. That'd be fun. I don't know. I also just like mushrooms. I like eating mushrooms. And we're talking like regular mushrooms, by the way, everyone. Not psychedelics. I'll do those once in a blue moon. But I love eating fucking normal mushrooms. Right? No, Roman, I'm the same way too, right? If it's bucked and ready to go and it's an easy trim, like I can dial it in and go to town, especially if I've got my preferred type of snips. You can fly. You get into the zone and you just go. And that's how I do it too. Is like I get it all ready to go. You know, maybe I order a pizza in. I put on or make a movie list of movies I want to watch. And I throw it on the boob tube and I just get going. I get chopping, I get rocking, and it's a good time. Smoky Soja, is there any real hype brands out there like the US where it can go up to 108th? Would love for my product to catch that price. Not in the legal market, no. I used to be one of those people. So back in the day when I was producing a lot, my stuff was, most of the stuff that I produced when I was of the other side of the tracks growing up, was always pre-sold before I was even done flower. I rarely had anything other than what I would set aside for myself from production. So if I was producing something, it was usually pre-sold back in the day, but not anymore. Like, I mean, and it's not the grower even, right? Like growers don't have reputations anymore in terms of how our world works. Fuck, 40 to 60% of us don't even do it anymore. Just because we've been priced into the market. But there was a point in time in Canada where growers had reputations, and certain people, very few of them, but certain people would have their stuff pre-sold. And then that would probably get an even more exorbitant price because we're obviously speaking a wholesale reality there. In Canada, you can still get stuff that's going to cost you $1,400 to $1,800 a pound, but most pounds that are decent are going to cost you anywhere from like $600 to $1,000. There are still things that are fetching that, but that is a true quad, and a true quad is very rare. I know some people who produce quads, but they're not even doing it consistently. And they're good growers. It's just every run's a little different, right? But like a true quad here might get 14 to 18, but that's rare even. Like 14, maybe 15 is like kind of top market shit. And that represents honestly probably 2 to 4% of what's actually being produced. Everything else is not. And anyone who says like, the second someone comes to me and is like, oh, I got the quads, bro. Everything I produce is quads. The second you talk to me like that, I'm like, yeah, nothing you're producing is a quad then. The second you think about it that way, you've just proven that you're not a quad producer. Fuck yeah, I like a good fried apple. What's up, Andre 4000? Yeah, we still chatting. I was going to go, but then here we are. We're still here. Hell yeah, Billie Jean. I love a good oyster mushroom. Andre 4000. What is a quad? It's referencing quadruple A. So back in the day, obviously, there was like singles, doubles, and trips, or high trips. And it stayed there for a long time. High trips was like considered the best. But then when we really started refining, especially when it comes to indoor cultivation and certain sort of notes to hit, we elevated what we were producing to a point where occasionally you would see something where we were like, you know what, this is even danker and better than a trip. What are we going to call it? So we started calling it quads. So quadruple A is when I say quads or anyone says quads, we're referencing typically quadruple A. Yeah, right? True Aussie Ray. Like, yo, we used to get like 28 to 3 back in the day, but it's been over 20 years since that happened. When was the last time I saw a price that high in a pound in Canada? Like 20 years ago. Like the world's craziest quad, something that would go toe to toe against any cannabis you'll see anywhere in the world. You might get 1,400 for the pound here. Might get 1,400. And what you would be getting at 1400 will hands down beat probably almost anything anywhere else. Like, that's just honest. That's just the truth, man. But it's rare. Like, a true quad is not, you don't see them all the time. Even people who do produce quads don't always produce quads. I mean, it goes against the inherent nature. No one can consistently always do that. You have some runs that, like, my buddy will say to you, he's like, oh, I always produce quads. And he's a good grower. He's been doing it a long time. We have a friendly competition between the two of us. It's our favorite game is called Josh is Usually Right, which is like 98% of the time I am right and he's wrong. Even if it takes him 2 years sometimes in certain situations to admit it. But I will give this to my buddy. He does produce quads consistently, but not every run he's done is a quad. I'll say for every 4 that he does, 1 or 2 of them are high trips, and I wouldn't deem it a quad. But there's so many shitty growers about that they'll put that tag on it because it is, at the time of market availability, the best thing around, so they'll call it a quad. That, to me, having a swinging scale on quality control is bullshit. It either hit that level or it didn't. And there ain't no shame in producing trips, man. If you produce high-end trips that are dank as fuck, that's respectable. Yeah, I want Roman, I want apples now too. Man. No, I feel you, but Smoky Soja, what I'm saying is, though, nothing goes higher than 14 here. The market's gone now. Like 50, 60% of the producers that were in existence are gone now. The guy that I was buying my stuff when I ran out of my stuff from, who was one of my students, and he never produced a quad. He produced solid mid trips. And that was what he did. But it was good, solid mid trips. I was happy to smoke it. It was at the right price point. He did not charge me very much a pound for that stuff. He was very good to me. But like, yeah, like, we don't go past 14 here. Maybe once in a blue moon, someone might get 18. But you're only going to get 18 when it's an East Coast buyer coming from the East Coast to the West Coast. And even still, that's rare. But if you produce a rocking quad, you can expect 14 here on the West Coast of Canada. Single A, double A, triple A, quadruple A. That's what I'm referencing, Mudswat. It's just like a fancy new, trendy way to talk about an old school ranking system. Yeah, Smoky Soja, I'm going to tell you that I can guarantee you that the quads that are here being produced are better than anything in California. Now, not to rag on California, like if there was going to be a place in the world that would give us a run for our money, it's going to be Cali. To be fair, Oregon's pretty good these days. There's a lot of states that have really stepped up their game, but we're still going to beat them in the long run. But that doesn't happen here, bro. To be fair, like even like a high trips, like let's say quote unquote you were a local plug. If you charge him more than $100 an ounce, nobody's going to buy it. I don't care how good it is. Maybe once in a blue moon, you might be willing to spend a little bit more than that. Back in the day, it was like $200 to $300 a zip all day for good shit. But no, not anymore, man. Market's gone. Market's gone now. And the cannabis market did it to itself, right? But so like it's lucky for the farmer, I think, that still exists in certain parts of California for them. But like I also know people who own a lot of farms in California, and that's maybe at the end of retail, maybe. Nobody getting much for anything anymore. My buddy's uncle, who's now passed, and he inherited his farms, and he's a good grower himself too, and they're cranking out great shit. They're barely keeping the lights on there, man. Barely keeping the lights on. Market's gone tits up. It's not as bad in Cali as it is here, but it's happening everywhere. Like, I know in the last 6 months, I know 4 different farms that have gone out of business now. People that I helped get running, taught them how to do shit. They were doing very well and very successfully for a number of years. And everything's now just done. You arrogant son of a bitch, Roman Reckless. I love it, Roman. Roman's like, I'm pulling Quince, baby. That's right, 5A. Arrogant bastard. Well, I guess I could claim part of the fun on that one. I believe you used my company's lighting system, so. Oh, man. Oh, Roman, I love your sense of humor, man. Good times. Good times. Buckaroo, yes. I'm in Vancouver, British Columbia, yes. Yes, Mudswat. Quadruple or a quad, it would be a quadruple A, yeah. Smoky Soja, I guarantee you it will. The second federal legalization happens, it will happen to you. Happen to us. We got the world's best prices, and at least in our localized area. I mean, fuck, over in New Zealand back in the day, it's even happening in New Zealand now. Like back in the day in New Zealand, even if it was shitty weed, you could get $5,000 to $6,000 a pound in New Zealand. I think they're down to like 3 or 3.5 for good now, and that's all happened in New Zealand in the span of a year to a year and a half. It will happen in California. It's already happening in most states. I already know it's already happening in most of California. So I don't know where you're hanging out, but like I know some of the main producers in Shasta, and they're the number one rivals of Humboldt. Humboldt got famous. Shasta typically is actually producing better weed, but I know the growers of Shasta, and nobody's getting much of anything anymore. The dream is dead. I was just consulting a guy who I helped get his farm up and going, and he's like, he's a little younger than I am, and he's like, I don't know what to do, man. Like I consider myself lucky that I've been able to spend 5 or 6 years doing what I love, but the money's not there for me as a small producer anymore. Like it doesn't matter how good I do. Like I just can't keep my company afloat. I'm shutting down. I was like, yeah, no, I feel you. I felt bad for him because he was rocking our lighting systems too, and I was just like, so he was asking me, he's like, what do you think I should do? He's like, minimum wage jobs don't pay. Like, I'm like, should I go back to school? Should I do that? And I was like, well, I mean, if you don't have any marketable skill sets, you can get a job. I mean, other than that, I mean, yeah, go back to school and get yourself. I mean, luckily for me, I'm quite handy. So I managed to get a 6-figure job working for a big company, just fixing stuff. And I'm getting by on the fact that my brain, the neurons I have left still work. But I got lucky on that too. Like I got that job because people who worked with me that were my bosses back in the day believed in me and helped me get that job, and they put a good word in for me, right? But it sucks, right? Like the dream is dead. It's not dead, but it's evolved, and it's not what it once was. Like, so that's where like a lot of people are still staying in the game. It's a passion piece because you ain't paying your mortgage with it anymore. I remember back in the day when you'd be reading a High Times magazine and they'd be talking about these giant ass grow tent systems you could buy, and they called it like the mortgage lifter, right? Back when things were good. That doesn't exist anymore now, and we've done it to ourselves because everybody's undercutting everybody too, right? So the last 6 or 7, 8 years in the market in Canada have been rough. And to be fair, like a lot of people blame legalization directly, and I'll say it had part to do with it, but I would say just as much, if not more so, it was caused by the actual gray zone growers themselves. Yeah, so Smokey, Smoky Soja, sorry, man. Nah, man, like, I'll make some of the best hash around in Canada, and if I were to sell it, maybe $20 a gram, and it's banging, but $20 a gram. Fuck, wholesale on most dabs is per gram, and like we're talking banging shit. Wholesale is like $2, $2 to $6 maybe wholesale. That's just the world we live in, man. See, Yeti Mountain Trading. Welcome to the show, by the way. Good to see you, buddy. Yeti Mountain Trading had a successful cannabis business as well. Collapsed after the market gets flooded. Everybody undercuts each other. Nobody has foresight. See, if we had unified as a market and worked together and established fair trade and an agreement with each other, we could have weathered this. We could have controlled market pricing, and none of it would have collapsed. But that didn't happen, did it? Excuse me. Yeah, so like for example here, for a gram of really good rosin, and we're not talking store retail because store stuff is legal crap. So let's talk about real acquisition in Canada. Honest to God, if you're spending more than $20 a gram on like a rosin, for example, like, and you're just buying straight up rosin, like I'll go to and like there are some small micro producers here in Canada that are legal that are producing some great like disposable vapes now of their products. So I'll buy those occasionally just because they're great for on the go. But yeah, like if you're spending more than $20 a gerb retail, you're getting ripped off. At least in our market, anyway. Smoky Soja, but you're missing my point though, bud. What I'm telling you is these are the prices for the best quality. That's what's happened to the market. There it hoping that you'll be able to hold on to people that want the best of the best of the best, that only lasts for so long. I can personally speak to that. Being who I am. It doesn't stay that way. It always goes. So either you adapt or die. That's the moral of the story when it comes to the cannabis game. Adapt or die. I like, for example, because of who I am and my connections, if a normal person were to try to acquire this wholesale, they might be spending $4 to $6 a gram for this crumble here, for example. I'll show you guys a really nice crumble. Yeah, I'll show you the pink. Why not? Okay. I can get this shit, and this is made by a Cannabis Cup winner, one of the leading crumble makers in Canada. Okay. Shit is amazing. Okay. Look at that shit. Fucking amazing. Okay. Absolutely amazing. That, to me, is $2 wholesale. $2 a gram. That's $2. And this is made by a multi-Cannabis Cup winner. That's just where the market goes in the long run, guys. Like, legalization is not what we thought it was. And, you know, I had high hopes that this wouldn't happen to the market via legalization. I thought there would be a safe place where we could maintain value and the farmer and producer could, you know, earn a livable wage and, you know, and stay in the game. But that's not what's happened here in Canada. And it's not what's happening anywhere. Like, we're just a few years ahead of everybody. It's coming. Accept it. It's just what it is. It sucks, you know. Yeah. I don't really have anything else to add to that other than I'm sorry. Like, it's just what happens. Like, you know. What 6 start full milk cost you? What's a 6 start? You're using terms I don't know if we use those here. I don't really know what you're talking about. Can you explain to me a little bit more what you mean? Yeah, no, Yeti, you're totally right. Like, 'cause the fact is, like, and that's what a lot of these micro LPs and why a lot of them are getting gobbled up by these big companies right now is their cost of production is higher than what they can get wholesale, right? And the market's just not a feasible one for anyone to stay afloat. No, Billie Jean, I agree. I'm 100% on board with you on there. Like, that's where I'm at too. I just grow my own weed and I'm good to go. True Aussie Ray, no, I think you still vote yes for legalization. I do think it will auto-correct in the next 20 years. It's like the prohibition of alcohol was too. We're never going to get back to that really high-end stuff. We may get to a place where there'll be a small niche market again for high-end products, but it's going to take time. Just like prohibition of alcohol took when we repealed that, it took time for it to auto-correct and to shake itself out. I will say, in a positive note, there's been a slight uptake in numbers in the Canadian market. So it's gone slightly up, but not much. Like, it's never going to return to what it once was. And, you know, yeah. Oh, so full melt. Pretty much everything I buy is full melt, man. Like, like pretty much anything I make or anything I buy typically is full melt, and it's the prices I've already said. Like, I get it like $2 or $3, $2 or $3, best shit around. $2 or $3, good to go. I don't even have requirements of wholesale acquisition. I can buy a few of them at that price because of who I am. I'm actually almost out of most of my stuff right now. Smoked most of it. Let's see what I have that I could show. I got some smalls left of this stuff. I've actually got to re-up on stuff. These are some smalls of a pink that I picked up from one of my students. It's not the world's prettiest thing, but dude, it's got a wonderful flavor and it packs a punch. Plus, I mean, the price point on it was amazing. So, what else we got we might be able to show you? Sorry. I got a lot more mushrooms in my cupboard right now than weed. Let's see here. Yeah. Nothing really that special at the moment to show, to be honest. I've got to go visit some of my local farmers, to be honest. But I won't lie to you, like, especially recently on the go as a working class hero, you know what I'm saying? Working so much in, like, you know, dab rigs, disposable vapes, or something I can reload myself with an extract is like, I hit that a lot these days. Like, I never thought I'd become one of those, but it's just so much easier for when you're on the go, you know, and you don't smell like crazy with it, right? Like I can hit a weed vape and then walk in a door minutes later and I'll be fine. Like, I don't stink. Where, like, you know, if I smoke a joint of dank, then I reek horribly. Like, I stink. And then it's super awkward when you go to a place, you know what I mean? Yeah, no. Yeti Mountain, you know, I feel you, bro. Like, I still produce things for my own consumption. I still consult companies and make a few bucks here or there doing it. I still make products here or there for like cancer patients or sick people and make it affordable and accessible. I mean, that's the one good thing I think of the market crash is that I'm in a position where I can help a lot of people for almost no money, which is really good. I can help a lot of people who are sick. So there are oddly positives, I guess you could say, to a crashing market. It has finally become easy to help people in terms of the medical needs of people who are really sick. And it's really cheap if you want to buy stuff for yourself too. But I guess those are the only real positives there to it. Like, no, right? Like Smoky Soja, there are places where you can still make a killing, right? But even like like one of the places where market value has been the highest almost out of anywhere, unless you go to a place where it's like super illegal, like has been New Zealand, right? New Zealand for decades, 5 to 6 thousand a p, all bloody day. 5 to 6 thousand a p, all bloody day. They in the last year or so have already dropped from 5 to 6 to like 3 to 35, which, funnily enough, to me, I'm like, well, 3,000 to 3,500 still sounds pretty damn good. But if you think about it realistically, like that's a 30 to 50% drop in wholesale pricing. That's a 50 or 30 to 50% drop in wholesale pricing in a year and a bit. It's happening everywhere. If it hasn't happened to where you're at, it's going to. It's coming. We're all just ahead of you. It's all coming. It's going to happen. Yeah, see, Smoky Soja, that already exists here. You know? Retail for the top rosins should be no more than $20 in this market. You know? Yeah, it just all goes that way. To be fair, you're not gonna have to work to make that happen. It's gonna happen. Happens everywhere. It's already happened here. It's gonna happen there. It's coming. Just the age of the nature of the beast. It's the age of what of now, right? If you guys hold out for a couple more years, great. Enjoy it while you can. Squirrel those nuts away, as it were, because it's not going to stay that way. Those days are dead. See, like, I'm going to have a nap after the show. I've had a busy morning already. It was my, had the day off, finally had a day off from working nonstop at my job, and I still had to wake up early. Wake up early, walk the dogs, shower, shave, and then I had a big film meeting with the director and producers. That went on for like an hour and a half. Then I had house chores, which I've got to start on, but there's like a billion more house chores that I wanted to do today. But I still think I might have a power nap before I try to do those. It's only 4:10, right? So have a little toke at 4:20 and have a little power nap and then sort of work into the evening and stuff a bit. True Aussie Ray's like, it's 8:40 a.m. here. Yeah, it's 4:10 p.m. here yesterday to you. And I feel like Mudswat, I feel like you live in an area where like it's harder to get the good. I mean, I grew up spoiled as a young grower and a young cannabis consumer. I had the pleasure, the luck, the honor of getting to grow up in a place where the best, or some of the best, or probably the best, world-leading cannabis is being produced and has been since before I even got into the game at the age of 12, right? I had the luck of doing that. No, I'm not sitting on a toilet. I'm sitting on my shower, the edge of my shower, having a dart in the bathroom. So, like, for me, price point wasn't always there, but like I almost always had access to something that was pretty decent, right? It being where I am. But like I have been in other parts of the world though where that wasn't a thing. Like when I lived in Germany back in the day when it was the legal equivalent of cocaine, and people frowned on weed consumption more than like snorting coke or meth. That was really weird for me being over in Germany, and like you smoke a joint, people look at you like you're dirty, but then if you go out on the weekend and do some coke or speed at a rave or a party, then like that's okay. And I'm like, in what world does that make sense? But that was Germany, right? Like, so I have experienced scarcity. I have experienced it for brief windows of time, what it's like. I'm glad, Mudswat, that you at least had Yeti looking out for you, buddy. Sorry, everybody, I'm just reading now. Yeah, Roman, I agree with you, but that's never going to happen because corporate interests are going to get involved, and then they're going to pressure it the way they have, and it's what happened here. And Smoky Soja, I'm saying enjoy it while it lasts because it will not stay that way. What eventually happens is the small batch guys hold on longer than most, but then they'll be the first to go. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's not going to last. Enjoy it while you can. It will come crashing down. Yeah, no, it is Smoky Soja. Like Germany in the last, well, I'm 36 now. I was 22 when I was married the first time, so that's 14-ish years. Yeah, like in 14 years, Germany's come a long way. Like they've come a long way in 14 years. When I lived in Germany in my early 20s, medical cannabis was a thing, but I think that only like 5 or 10 licenses in the whole country of like 80 million people, or how many people are in Germany, had been granted. So it was in its infancy. It was in its absolute infancy. So yeah, like Germany's come a long way. Germany has opted for a weird way of legalization to work though, because like they can't just have weed stores. It actually functions how the compassion clubs kind of existed before medical dispensaries were a thing. You've got to join like a club in Germany, and that's how you acquire things. And like, I can't speak to price points much. I've talked to a few Germans about it and stuff like that. I mean, if Russell Langhammer was in the show, he'd be able to tell us all about that. He's German, so lives in Texas, but advocate for the weed down in Texas. But uh, I almost think that if they stick more to the system they're doing, they might be able to avoid some of the issues that basically the rest of the world's having in terms of the market. But it probably won't happen. Peace out, Yeti, by the way. Good to see you, buddy. Much love. Enjoy your dinner, buddy. Roman, yeah, I'm 36, but no, Uncle Potsquatch is a lot younger than people think he is. I've been in the game since I was a child, and I'm wise beyond my years. I was born 90. I have to make the joke, but I'm only 36 still. No, I know, Roman. I know. I don't take issue with it. There's a lot of people when they first find out, they're like, "I've been watching you for years. I was sure you were older than me." I'm like, Jerry, you're 52. Fuck you, man. That has actually happened more times than I care to admit. People who are a good 15 to 20 years older than I am thinking I'm older than they are. And then I'm like, I'm not sure how to take that. Happy birthday a few weeks ago, by the way, Roman. Hey, happy 45th in November, Mudswat. No, I've always looked old, man. Like, I've been getting auditions to play dads in their mid to late 30s, early 40s. Can you all hear me, or did that screw up the sound? Did that screw up the sound? I think when I get a phone call on the show, it fucks the sound up. Oh, I'm good? Okay, sick. My phone got smarter. I love how people who know I'm doing a show and they send me a text. They're like, "How was your show?" I'm like, "It's still going on. You could check that." And they call you. It's like, oh, it did screw it up. Oh, for a sec. Okay. My phone's still getting smarter. Last time that happened, it like I had to like shut the show down, but only partially, and then restart it, and it kind of worked. But yeah, it's like people. You just got to click YouTube, and you'll see that I'm still going. I'll call you back. If I don't respond back to how the show was, there's a good chance I'm still in the show. Katie, if you're watching, I'll call you back in a minute. Damn, Billie Jean. Billie Jean, you would walk into Canada and realize the realities of how things work here, and you would feel like a fat kid in a candy shop with $1 million. Smoky Soja, I mean, dude, BC did do that for a really long time. I know a lot of guys used to do that. I had a guy, and now he lives as an old, destitute old man on pension, making a few extra bucks here or there. There was a time when he was worth millions of dollars. There was a time where he was so rich from smuggling things from here down there that he owned his own helicopters. And they would quietly smuggle it over. And I remember him telling me a story. This is back in the good old days, right? And he was sitting in a bar, and one of his helicopters went down. And it was all over the news. And his buddies were sitting there, and they turned to him. They're like, "Murph, isn't that one of your helicopters?" Murph's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going home." Shit. But he was fine, though. Like, it wasn't even a big deal. He's like, oh shit, another one bites the dust. There was a time when that existed, right? But you know, it is what it is, buddy. It is what it is. But the funny thing is here's the funny thing, everybody. This is what I find funny about everything. Some of the best weed and products are being produced now than ever before in the history of the cannabis industry. But yet none of us can afford to pay rent. Oh, and all I could do is laugh at it, yo. All I could do is laugh at it, guys. Because well, that's all you can do. Like, I mean, if you're going to let it get to you, you know, like younger Potsquatch, when I first started the channel, you know, I was working towards having my legal farm. I was going to do that. That was my life. It was going to be my life. And very quickly, I realized that was just not the case. And so that's where we shifted gears into lighting and genetics. I make a bit of money through that, but not much. And it is what it is. There's a reason why I have a salary job for a large company now using my brain. There's a reason I have that. I make more money off of being an artist now. Let that sink in. I make more money as an artist now. Let that sink in. I never thought I would say that. I never thought I would say that. But welcome to modern times. And as I said, kind of early on before we went off on this tangent, you know, evolve or die. Evolve or die. Much what I would say often, I mean, it depends on the genetics and this, that. But yeah, no, I would say it is definitely better. I wouldn't say that most modern genetics are better. I would say they're better in certain ways. I hate modern genetics. That's why I specialize in working with old school shit. But growing techniques, implementation, technologies, so you take an old genetic, grow it in a modern way, it's going to be 1,000 times better than it used to be. So yeah, no, it is better. I wouldn't say modern genetics are better necessarily. Better maybe on a couple of points, but I can't stand modern genetics. But no, it is consistently, on average, vastly superior now than it's ever been before. 100%. I would definitely make that statement. Roman Reckless is like, so you're broke is what you're saying. I'm still living paycheck to paycheck. That's for sure. Now, part of that, though, is I'm trying to pay off the debt that I incurred from almost dying last year. So I didn't work for 6 to 8 months last year. Then when I left bartending and tried to find a new world, I was in the hiring process for the job I have now, but that took like 3 or 4 months. So I didn't have money coming in there either. So I've incurred debt that I'm working at paying off right now. Once that's gone, I will be in a position that I'll be able to slowly save up a down payment. But like, this is the housing market where I live, everybody. I'm going to buy a float house. That's my goal. It's the only thing I can afford here. But to buy a 12 to 1,400 square foot float house in Richmond, in BC here, that's going to cost me $500,000 to $900,000. Don't own a land, nothing like that. Still paying mortgage fees to keep my house moored at a place. That's what the housing market is where I live. I'm lucky at how cheap my rent is here because I've had this apartment for 14 years. But like a small 1-bedroom apartment, nowhere near as nice as mine, way smaller than mine, 3 blocks down the road from me is almost $3,000 a month. No, by day, I'm the mobile maintenance technician for a very large company worth the better part of $1 billion. I work for a big company now, but they treat me well. They pay me a decent salary, and I get to use my brain. I get to tinker around doing electrical fixes, plumbing fixes, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and every day is different. And I work at all their buildings because I work for head office, so it's a stimulating job, it's a rewarding job, and it's a job that I can at least afford, you know, a $500,000 to $900,000 mortgage on with the right down payment. So, and that is how Potsquatch is going to get more space for the channel and start breeding again for everybody. Is he's going to buy a float home, and he's gonna fly a pirate flag from that thing. I'm gonna be sitting there in a float home that, with a few upgrades, is gonna be worth $1 million, which is fucking dumber than shit, by the way. But it is what it is. It's where I live. Hell yeah, Smoky Soja. Yo, Smoky Soja, put a comment on my most recent video so I can click your comment and go to your channel. I'll show up. Hell, you want me to come on a show? We'll have a smoke off. Well, not a smoke off. I don't, not like smoking against each other, but like, or smoke out. That'd be a better way to put it. If you ever want me to come on your show, I'm happy to, buddy. Yo, Smoky Soja, like, the first house, which was a manufactured home trailer in a trailer park on an indigenous land that I didn't even own the land. I bought that at $165,000, and I sold that just under 3 years later for $315,000. I could have gotten $380,000 for it, but I took $315 because I wanted to help a young family get into their first home, and I'm not a greedy man, so I decided to do that. I turned down the bigger offer and gave it to the new family. That's the reality, bro. Dude, right? No, Roman, it'll be all right. I just my only issue, bro, is I would prefer to have, 10 acres as well. I would also prefer to own land. I would also prefer to not have to spend the better part of $500,000 to $1 million to buy a float home. But I'm just gonna pretend I'm like Sleepless in Seattle, man. Just be like, yeah, Buzz, I spent more money than that on a fucking trailer, but no land, and I ended up getting run out of my house because the indigenous tribe wanted to get into the weed game and they knew who I was. And so they broke the law and fucked me over. But what was I going to do as a white guy? Like, I mean, it was a losing battle on that one, so I just sold the house and ran. I'll put it to you this way, everybody. Part of my frustration about the housing market here is if I were to go to the east coast of my country and go out to Prince Edward Island, okay, I could, for the amount of money I would spend to buy like a pimpin' float home here, I could go buy not an acre or anything, but like a big plot of land, own it outright at a private golf club on their grounds, build a brand new house with all the cutting edge shit, off grid, solar, anything I wanted to put into it for the same price. Or I could go 25, 30 minutes outside of Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. I could buy 3 or 4 acres with a 4,500 to 5,500 square foot house with a 3,200 square foot workshop, all brand new, renovated, on a cliff overlooking the ocean, with phase 3 power, already wired. And that would cost me like $600,000, $700,000. Just saying. I'd prefer that, but I'm locked to Vancouver vis-a-vis my acting career and then the new great job I have at this big company, sadly. So I'll put it to you this way, guys, girls, these and theys. In Vancouver, if you own a little shitty house that's a rundown piece of shit that's like maybe 1,000 square feet and it's anywhere in Vancouver, even with barely any land to it, that house is automatically worth at least $2 to $3 million. That is the Vancouver housing scene. My stepmother owns a house just below Kerrisdale on the west side. It is old. It's dilapidated. The house should be ripped down. But she's got a decent little piece of land, at least by Vancouver standards, and her house is worth almost $5 million. The property tax they spend a year on that house is $12,000 to $15,000 a year in property tax alone. See, Buzz, it's like not all of my country is like that. Like my country in general is really expensive. Like my country in general is way more expensive than America. That's just a reality. And to be fair, no offense, America, it's much better here than there. Um, we have just as many, if not more, guns per capita, but no gun violence compared to you guys. We have some stuff, but like nothing like the States, right? Like it's much safer here. Canada's a much safer place, and I prefer that. Right? And it's like I'm a gun guy. I like guns. I like hunting. I like all that. Don't get me wrong. But I would not want to live in America with how some of the laws are. But I will say though, I do desire you guys' cost of living. Like, food is cheaper than shit there. Gas is cheaper than shit there. Houses are cheaper than shit there, except for like one or two couple of places maybe. But like, cars are cheaper there. Pretty much almost everything is cheaper in America than in Canada. And like the fact that in Texas I can go buy a 2-4 a Budweiser or a Bud Light for like, I don't know, like on sale like $16 is astonishing to me. I think the lowest I've ever paid for a 2-4 of like old Milwaukee, for example, I think I got it in Ontario in my early 20s once for like $25.50 or $25.25. And I remember like being so shocked by that, and I was just like, whoa. And then she was like, I'm so sorry we had to raise the price, like the government raised the taxes. And I was like, you have no idea what I've been paying on beer out west. Like, I could kiss you right now. Like, I mean, Happy Dude Grows. We have just as many rights in Canada. If anything, we have more rights against the police than you guys do. Our cops also like aren't. Yeah, we have bad cops too. I've dealt with bad cops, but by and large, our police force here is much safer than the American police force. We also make our cops go to school, like college, rather than 6 months of training, and any dumb fuck with an IQ of 45 is given a gun to police people. I don't know. I wish we did it more like Germany. Germany's like 3 years in university. Sweden is like 4 or 5 years in university. That's how you train your police force. It's a very serious job. You don't just hand out guns and badges after 6 months, but that's how most of America is. So, no, I'm going to stay in Canada, man. I don't care who your leader is. I don't see how your country could be made in such a way that I'd want to live there. I'll visit. I'll do business with you guys. Like, I shoot movies there and shit. Like, I'm down to come down. I'm down to hang out. I'll even buy a house in America, but I'm not going to make it my primary residence. That's my thing, right? Like, oh, totally. And Daddy-O grows too. Like, for example, like, the way you guys handle your servers and bartenders, right? Like, the fact that they're paid like a few bucks an hour and then like tips, like, that's just fucked. You guys shouldn't have that for show, but it is what it is. Oh, no, hell yeah, Billie Jean. So Smoky Soja, like, I drink PBR, it's cheap. 2-4 or 24 beer of PBR is about $55 to $60. Happy Dude Grows. I mean, in terms of the RCMP, you got to remember, you got to look at which detachment it was, right? So there's certain detachments where the rejects and noobs and idiots get sent, and those are usually where you hear these stories coming out of. So there's certain detachments in the Royal Canadian Mounted Police where they send the morons, and that's typically where those stories come from. But I will say this. There's good cops and bad cops everywhere, but I do prefer the police force that we have in Canada in general, both federally or local municipal, than what I see going on down in the States. You know what I'm saying? Oh, dude, Smoky Soja, I totally agree with you. Like, I've visited a lot of quaint, beautiful small towns in America that I love. My issue isn't with the communities per se, even. My issues, though, are with just how certain things your country does. Like, guys, you're the leading world economy. Socialized medicine, not a scary thing. Just take care of your people, man. I shouldn't have to have health insurance to go to the hospital if I hurt myself. Um, you know, Train your police. Don't just give a batch and a gun to anybody. Have gun laws. Like, make people take tests to get a gun license. Make people prove they're not a psychopath to be able to buy guns. We per capita have more guns than you do. We love guns just as much as you guys. We are a country of hunters. But none of us have any issues with these gun laws, right? Because it makes it safer. And yes, trust me, the same stat exists in Canada. Most gun violence that does happen here is illegal guns that come from America. So it's like, right? It's not gun owners causing things. But at the same time, like, just we treat guns with a, like, you guys view guns as a right. We view guns as a privilege. And I think that is the basic inherent difference between Canada and America. You guys view guns as a right. We view guns as a privilege and something to be treated like with a lot of respect and to be careful with, and you train people properly to have and own and take care of. That's how we approach it. But we've always done it that way, right? Like we're a hunting nation. That's how we developed, right? So oh no, I feel you, Smokey Soja. The way you guys do it, like here in Canada, you at least get minimum wage as a server, which I believe we just upped our federal minimum wage. So we have provincial minimum wage, but then the federal government made a ruling that like there's a federal minimum wage now. So like your provincial can go higher than this, but it's got to be at least this. And so the minimum wage in Canada now is $17.30. That's the new federal minimum wage. I make a lot more than that at my job, but that's the first time in years that I've made more than that, though, right? So, hey, what's up, the growing upstairs? Good to see you. What's up? No, bro, Roman, that I'm sorry. I wholeheartedly disagree with you in every way. Do you realize how easy it is to do socialized medicine? It's not hard, dude. And it doesn't actually cost. It's actually cheaper in the long run to have socialized medicine. Compare and contrast actual health disorders, people getting sick in emergency situations between a socialized medicine system and that. It's way cheaper to operate our system. It costs money to put in place at first. That is true. I'll give you that. But once it's going, it's way cheaper to operate. And you guys, because of the amount of people you have, very easily could do it. You guys have more medical infrastructure already than anyone. You just got to change how you play the game. That's all. Like the fact that in Canada, you know, drugs are affordable, right? Like the fact that, like, for example, insulin, which costs $5 to produce, and you guys were charging $1,000 a month for insulin? Like, that's ridiculous. It costs $5 to produce that insulin. You guys have allowed privatization and private corporate interests and greed to take over your medical system. And that is where the cost is coming from. The cost isn't real. The cost is an inflated imaginarium created by corporate America and corporate medical big pharma, right? I'm not saying that big pharma doesn't have effect on us either. They do, but socialized medicine on any scale is doable because it's a direct function of your GDP and what you're producing. More people means more money, right? So you guys have a bigger GDP than we do. You guys make a lot more money than we do. Per citizen, you guys make so much more than Canada. So really, you guys could do it. You just have to make the choice to make the switch. And it was hard for us to do. It took a long time, and it cost us a bunch of money initially to do it. But there's a reason why most of the first world does this. You guys are like one of the only people who don't. I'm just saying. Like, the only issue that I have in Canada is I think I have a right that if I pay into socialized medicine, that if I choose to go to private medicine and pay extra money to have my own private doctors, I should have a right to do that, which that's not allowed. I think that's fucked. I think I should have a right to that. I think if I pay for everyone else's healthcare and I want to pay more money to have private medicine, I should be allowed to do that. I think that's one thing I would like in my system. I'd like my system to be socialized with the option of private. I'll be honest. Certain parts of Canada, that is an option. Not where I live, but, you know. Anyway, I digress. Okay, Roman, no, we don't get it for cheap. We produce our own insulin here, man. Canada invented insulin. Insulin's a Canadian invention, bro. You guys pay $1,000 there because you allow companies to dictate the price. Your insurance companies are what are dictating the price of these things in partnership with your big pharma. We just don't allow that to happen in Canada. We don't allow companies to price gouge on medications. That's just the reality of it, man. Our insulin doesn't come from America, man. We produce our own insulin. We invented insulin. Insulin was invented in Ontario. Like, that's a Canadian invention, bro. Like, I don't know where you're getting it. Like, that we buy our insulin from you guys. We're not. We just have a fair pharma system. It's not perfect. Certain things should be cheaper, but your prices on medications are caused by one thing and one thing only, and that's corporate greed and corporate interest, and that your insurance companies and pharma companies are establishing what things are going for. It's not being based off cost of production, need, or demand. It's being based off of profit and potential profit and being controlled by private entity. That's why drugs cost a lot in America. Not because we're buying them cheap, so you have to spend more to offset our cost. It's not how it works, man. It's literally just not true. I'm sorry, man. I'm not Roman. I respect you, and I agree with almost everything you always say, but I'm just going to have to disagree on that one, buddy. To be fair, our economy goes up and down in Canada, but we've been basically kind of the same the whole time. We fluctuate a bit. We never go that high, but we never go that low. Canada stays consistent like this. The thing that'll be interesting will be the coming trade wars. Really, that's what's interesting in terms of the cost of things in Canada and the States. And the division that right now we're sitting in a world where there's new alliance against all of us. China, Russia, India, a bunch of places, and they represent 40% of the world's 25% of the world's population. No, I'm getting this backwards. A little over 40% of the world's population, and they represent a little over 25% of the world's GDP, and they're legitimately been made to go against all of us, like, Europe and America and all this. So we'll see what happens, man. And there's trade wars happening on and tariffs. We've had production go to China, and we are both our countries and Europe too. Like, we're so dependent on things that are produced somewhere else. We need to go back to producing things here if we have any hope in hell of winning that one. But like, that's the scary thing of the world. Like, that's what we're watching. We're on the verge of World War III right now, everybody. Like, that's just a thing. The Middle East, if it actually goes to a Middle East wide conflict, that is going to become World War III very quickly. Do I stop watering before harvest? No. Roman Reckless, if you're really sick, you don't die. We take care of people who are sick and needing shit right away really quickly. When I had cancer, I was on a table having my surgery within 2 weeks. When I showed up at the hospital 6 hours away from death, I instantly got treatment. In Canada, this is our shortcoming. If you're not really that sick, you're not going to get help right away. But if you are really sick, you will be taken care of. And that is how our medical system works. Roman, I'm not delusional. This is, and again, I agree with you. Let's not get into it. But I literally know friends who own pharmaceutical companies. I know where drugs come from. During the pandemic, I was involved in PPE deals between companies, negotiating things between your country, my country, between China and India. I intimately know how the world of medicine and pharmacology and the business of it works. I know a lot of the players in it. I've engaged in the business. Trust me, I very much understand how it works. Your country is expensive because of how you've built it. The fact is, you guys very easily could institutionalize everything we've done and do it probably cheaper than we can. We don't have your purchasing power. We don't have the gas behind us that you guys do. You guys could implement all of these things and probably realistically do it for 1/3 the cost. It sucks. I wish we could do that. But it's just a point of how you choose to run your country. It's a point of how you choose to stand up to corporations. It's a point of how you choose for certain markets to evolve and be allowed to work. It is illegal in our country for a company to do what was done with AIDS medications or insulin or these types of things. Like, that's illegal in our country. You can't do that. It's called profiteering, price gouging. That's illegal in Canada. You can't do that when it comes to these certain things. There's a lot of things that I wish we implemented those laws on as well in terms of other arenas. But like, America is the victim of its own problems when it comes to its medical system and the cost of drugs. That's just the reality of it. And there's different ways to do it. But you guys have been doing it that way so long that you're going to have your hardest point isn't the cost of it. It's that you're going to have to try to convince a system that has become so entrenched in money, power, and doing whatever the fuck they want without checks and balances that they're going to resist the change, and you're going to have to fight tooth and nail for it. That's what's going to be hard, dude. But whatever. We'll move on. You don't have to go, Robin. My country is expensive in general, but not when it comes to, I don't have to worry about going to the doctor. I don't have to worry about needing to go to the hospital. Like, when I almost died of cancer, that cost me nothing. When I almost died last year, was in the hospital for 3 weeks and then was on outpatient care back to the hospital every single day for 3 months, that did not cost me a single cent other than the taxes I pay. Okay? If I was in the States, I would have millions of dollars of debt that I would never pay off, and I would never get ahead of my life. Medicine is meant to heal people and lift them up, not punish them. Katie, who is my friend Lady Lover, is now a Canadian citizen. She's also American. She just got granted citizenship a week ago. But she moved to my country 16 years ago because as a landed permanent resident, once she got that, an MSP, her meds would have cost her $23,000 or $4,000 a month in America. They're covered here under our stuff. That's my point, right? And the meds don't cost that much. It's just an inflation of how it works there, dude. But anyway, we don't need to go on that, Roman. I will respect your right to have your opinion, but I'm also going to call it how it is in my mind. That's it. That's all. Anyway, everybody, America, I'll put it to you this way. There's a different way for you to do stuff. You guys are rich and powerful enough to do all of these things and take care of your citizens. You guys are dealing with very similar issues that we are. And both our countries have a lot of stuff that we need to reevaluate. And that's the over-influx of immigration in a short period of time. We're pro-immigrant in Canada, but we let in too many people. Our infrastructure can't handle it. You guys are having a very similar issue in the States. And that needs to change. That's just a thing. But what I will say to the American people is there is a different way to do things. There is a way to hold companies accountable. Your pharmaceutical realities can be different than ours, or different than the way it is, and be like ours. Like, there is a way to do it that's not going to cost you guys more money. It's going to cost you guys way less money in the end once you get the system going, and then you can have American people that are worrying about getting ahead, attaining the American dream, taking care of their family, growing their family, rather than worrying about how am I going to pay for this life-saving treatment for my son? How am I going to pay for my mom to not die of cancer? It just gets taken care of. And then you keep working your job, you take care of your sick mom, you raise your family. You don't have to worry about these things. That's my only point, right? That's my only point. Anyway, I digress. Simply put, my friends, my family, it's been an interesting show. And Rowan, I hope you're not upset. And if you are, that's okay too. You said it how you feel it. I said it how I feel it. I'm going to stand by what I've said, but I'm going to respect your right to disagree with me. That is what democracy is. That is the nature of democracy. That is the nature of having critical thinking as part of it. But this is a Grow channel at the end of the day. But we went, in my mind, the Grow show ended a while ago. And then I was like, I'll keep going. We'll just have fun chat, hang out this time. But simply put, my friends, Sindor next. I live in Ontario and I just had a heart attack and a stroke. Our healthcare system is shit. Are you dead? I'm from Ontario. I grew up there. Most of my family still lives in Ontario. Are you dead? Did you get a fat bill in the mail for not dying? No. Could our system do better? Fuck yeah. Are wait times too high? Yep. Are all these things too high? Yep. But that isn't a function of socialized medicine. That is a function of we're not paying our doctors enough. For example, one of the leading medical programs in the West Coast here, I go on a tangent again, is here in Vancouver, BC, the UBC medical program. Not one of our doctors stayed in Canada. They went to the States. Why? Because down in the States, they get paid a lot more. So we got to pay our doctors more. Our doctors, our nurses are worth the money. These are things we should be spending money on. These are our problems as a country where we need to address them. The fact is, bud, you're not dead, right? Was like, if I had been taken seriously the first time I went to the hospital last year, I wouldn't have ended up almost dying. I wouldn't have been in the hospital for 2 weeks. I wouldn't have recovered 2 reconstructive surgeries to rebuild my dick. They would have put me on some antibiotics, realized there was an issue, and I would have been fine. So, trust me, I'm literally missing 65% of my scrotum and parts of my dick because of the fact there's a lot of places for our healthcare system to improve. So I agree with you in basic nature, but we don't let people die. Okay? So anyway, moving on, and I'm going to end the show because also, too, I need to blow my nose, and this is embarrassing. But it's been a good show, everybody. Roland, I hope we cool, man. I hope you chill. I hope we all right. I love you, buddy. We're allowed to have differences of opinion on things. And this is a touchy subject between our countries. It's kind of been something we've been poking at each other for a long time about. And anyway, I love y'all. I love you, Roman. I hope you're okay, buddy. We're allowed to disagree, bud. We're allowed to disagree. But tune in on Tuesdays for the updates on the plants, baby. Okay? Check out potsquatchsales.com. That's where you're going to get all your hats, t-shirts, grinders, papers, CBD, genetics, and all that thing. It's a great way to help us support the channel. As you learned maybe in today's show, it's kind of expensive here. Sorry for the bat in the cave. I'm going to blow my nose. But for Uncle Potsquatch to do anything that he does here. But check it out. It's a good time. Like, subscribe if you'd like to. Tell your friends. That helps us a lot in fighting the YouTube algorithm and to keep staying online and doing what we do. At the end of the day, you don't have to do any of that. If you learn something and you go on and be successful and love your plants and you live a better quality of life playing with your plants, that really is the whole reason why I started this channel. I didn't start this channel to make money. Check out the Potsquatch Growers community on Facebook. It's a safe place for all people to hang out and share their grows and share with each other and have a good time. Yeah, that's all I got to say. Oh, I guess I have one last thing I could say, and that is, remember, the true grower is the forever student. The true grower is not afraid to take risks. The true grower makes educated, stupid decisions. Love yourselves. God damn it. Love your plants. Love each other. And remember, we don't have to agree to get along. Discord and conversation is democracy, and debate is what makes the human race interesting. Let's stop shooting each other and just have a conversation about it instead. All right. Keep it real. Keep it sexy. Keep it squatchy. We'll see you next time. Potsquatch out. Hope you're okay, Rowan. I love you. Okay, bye. Oh, where's the... Oh, there it is.